times.
The Honorable Raila Odinga agreed with my president and party leader on the containment measures. Mr. Speaker, it is incumbent upon the various committees of this House.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
There are so many people peddling what is false and that it bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
you need umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM.
Okay, so what are we looking at this morning? Looks like Friday starting off not too badly. Traffic is already building up in the normal places today. It shouldn't be too crazy, at least not for now, but it is Friday and we're getting to the tail end of the month, so let's see what happens today. Building up already on Mombasa Road, heading out into the city, and then coming into the city from Thika Road also is where we see that it's built up just a bit. But we're going to look into it in more detail in a short while, about half an hour or so, and see what it looks like. Help us out this morning. Are we looking at a really sticky situation, or are things flowing by swimmingly? Let us know on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Hello. It's the 20th day of August, 2021. It's a Friday. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga here with you until 10 a.m. Let's start with you, CT. Good morning.
Morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Very good. Where do you see yourself at 10 o'clock?
As in beyond the end of today's show.
10 today.
After the show has ended, because at 10 the show will have ended and I'll be here. But you're asking thereafter. Well, I have stuff to do. I need to teach, go and teach. And
you'll be stuffing knowledge into people's heads.
Well, partly true, but partly not true. Because the nature of what I teach is, apart from it being interactive, it's supposed to focus very much on someone's lived experience.
Okay.
Yes, and that is putting experiences into learned experience into lived experience. Yes, learned as in read, studied into. That's really.
It sounds very much like you do what a shrink does, just asking questions. So that someone then tells their own lived. So what does that make you feel?
Yesterday, how I felt is not the way I feel today. Yes, but I'm not sure about tomorrow. Now, next week, I really don't know.
So is that how you conduct your training? So what happened? So and then
Tell us about it. How did
tell
it
us
make
about
you
it?
feel?
You know, when I was a child,
That's some interesting teaching. Coming from that teaching that you did earlier in your earlier years to this teaching then. Hey. Basically, you're telling your students, you teach yourself. All I'm here to do is guide
It's like
you.
group work.
Yes.
oh, there is.
Here's the subject. You
By
guys
the
go.
way,
sit and figure it out.
there is group work, but there is also a topic.
Yeah, they give you the
Of
topic.
course, you have to create
They
relevance
give
to
you the
yourself.
topic. You go figure it
In
out.
fact, let me give you what
You have to
call
create relevance for yourself.
Yes.
So you come up with a topic.
Exam
And then
leak-
everything else is the student's job.
exam leakage. I'm giving you two exam leakage. Okay. Research ethics in everyday life.
Bas.
That's leakage.
That's leakage.
Now you know.
Ndu, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good to see you.
Same here.
Yes.
All
So-
is well?
All is well in this land of the living.
Okay.
We have some big conversations to have today. This conversation number one that we'll be having is finally we are seeing the newspapers openly and majorly recognizing that we have an international global event taking place in Nairobi, the World Under-20 Athletics Championships. Because Kenya has started bagging gold medals, now we are seeing those glorious photos. Right?
You know, this is actually very shameful. No, sincerely. And it's almost insincere. Though, to the nation's credit, Nation newspaper, in all honesty, okay, they devoted 8 pages to it.
When?
Day before yesterday. 8. I counted.
They had 8 inner pages to...
Back. If you count from the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. They devoted 8. The Standard devoted 4. The Star devoted 3.
All right.
Yes.
Good stuff. So we'll be talking about how we can harness Kenya's sporting prowess, not just in track and field, but in all other sporting events. Somebody who worked in the Cabinet Secretary's office, Cabinet Secretary for Sports, will be joining us. She was a Chief of Staff. She's now Chief of Staff in the office of the Chief Justice. She'll be here. She worked very hard in getting these events, for example, coming to Kenya, this one, the Safari Rally and others, and also just working with the sports organizations. She'll come, she'll give us her experiences. She's very passionate about sport, and she'll tell us what she feels ought to happen. Then we will be talking about life in general, editorial. We'll be joined by a madman in the studio at 8 o'clock. In this mad world, Mado will be here. Paul Kalemba, the editorial cartoonist, the famous cartoonist, will be here with us from 8. We'll have conversations with him. You'll interact with him as well as you call in and share your thoughts. So those are the conversations we'll be having today. We start with COVID-19 in numbers. Remember what... okay, you do the numbers first, and we can do the...
You want us to remember?
We can do the noise making later.
CT.
Over to you.
Roger. All right. So, 210 million cases around the world is what we're looking at now. Very close to 211 million. Now, for the last 1.5 months, I mean, up until this point, so 1.5 months, so 6 weeks ago, we had 204 million cases around the world. And when we're looking at a steady decline, according to the World Health Organization, now we're looking at a rapid incline of cases. 7 million cases having been recognized the world over in the last 6 weeks. It doesn't look really good because, you know, the pattern is fluctuating up and down, and now we're in an upward direction yet again. Many U.S. states, for example, complaining about what they're seeing. We saw the case of the 3 teachers who passed on in Florida. We're now looking at an Australia situation, and they're talking about it being the worst ever COVID situation in New South Wales, which is one of the states in Australia, or the provinces. The leader has warned that it is the worst situation Australia has been in since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. They're saying they remember that Australia has been in total lockdown for the last 4 weeks. And now they're saying that the rules would even be tightened further in the state capital. And COVID fines. Now, you can imagine what they're doing, fining folks who are coming out when they shouldn't be coming out. 1,000 Australian dollars, for example, right now. And they say that this fine could go up to even 5,000 Australian dollars. Right now, Australian dollar is about 80 shillings. So think about it like that. Case numbers and deaths in the Australian state remain relatively low compared to some of the world's worst outbreaks. But remember that they had tried to keep things under control. They've now looked at transmitted infections hitting 466 and 390 respectively. 4 deaths reported over the last 1 week. Sydney has been in lockdown, I beg your pardon, not for 6 weeks but for 9 weeks. Officials had hoped to lift the restrictions on the 28th of August, but they're saying that this is looking extremely unlikely. Folks are restricted to staying within 5 kilometers of their home. You can't leave beyond a 5 kilometer radius. And the only thing you can leave for is shopping, exercise, or outdoor recreation, with some exemptions for social bubbles, where those have already been set up. Aside from that, you want to work, you work from home. All federal and corporate offices are locked, closed. You work from home. And they say outside of you will be fined if you're found outside. So this has become quite a serious situation in Australia. We're looking at some of the same stories coming out of the UK as well. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, 1,263 new COVID-19 infections in Kenya. And there's all this talk about, all right, there are lockdowns, there's curfew, etc., etc., and it's come from the Ministry of Health and said, look, folks need to be extremely careful. And then, boom, Homa Bay happened yesterday. And the question is, so what are we doing?
It's so contemptuous.
It's ridiculous, if you ask me, because a day after the president made this announcement, in the presence of the leader of this particular rally meeting yesterday, and then we say, okay, well, that bin over there, we're continuing with this thing. And if you saw the pictures that came out of Homa Bay yesterday, we're talking about large crowds of people.
700 to 1,000 people. It is so contemptuous. I don't even know what to think about that. I don't even need to, because especially this one is made worse because it had been planned, yes. And then Raila himself is in that meeting. Raila himself is standing by the president as he's announcing, let's continue with these measures. We are not going to have political rallies or any in-person meetings, blah, 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 one and the other. In fact, they even discuss and say, we hear there's an upcoming devolution conference. That one needs to be cancelled. But
nada.
Raila boards a flight and goes to Homa Bay.
And people come and meet him.
And he calls his people and says, I'm sure his people had called him and said, okay, so Baba, the meeting, so do we cancel? He says, no, I'm coming. I don't even know. I cannot forget it.
Don't understand it.
Forget it. Okay, Nisawa. Kenya's biggest conversation is live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Where are you this morning? Say hello. We'll be saying hello to you shortly after we take a look at the weather. Very good morning to you. It's 17 minutes after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. It'll come down to lows of 15, highs of 23 today. It's cloudy in Nyeri at 12, highs of 23. 23 will also be the high in Nakuru. It's cloudy at 14. Mostly cloudy conditions at 12 in Eldoret, highs of 22. We'll see highs of 29 in Kisumu, currently at 19 degrees, coming down to lows of 18. Partly cloudy at 19 in Kakamega, highs of 27 and lows of 15, 24 and mostly cloudy in Mombasa with highs of 29. Will come down to lows of 23. 24 will be the low in Malindi, where it's raining this morning at 25, going to highs of 29. 26 will be the high in Kampala. It's clear this morning at 18. Clear conditions at 21 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 21. It's 7 degrees and clear. Chilly morning in Johannesburg, highs of 23. Rain showers in Lagos, highs of 29 and lows of 25. We'll see highs of 30 in Kinshasa. It's mostly clear at 22. Sunny conditions out in Beijing, highs of 28 and lows of 21. 26 will be the high in Paris. It's cloudy at 16, coming down to lows of just that, and cloudy conditions at 17 in London with highs of 23. Clear conditions in New York Thursday night. Coming into Friday, we'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, 19 and a half minutes to after 6 o'clock. Very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in. People are online.
Yes, quite a number of people online, and hey, happy birthday, Spice FM. Today is August 20th, and everybody's tuning in this morning saying hello. And Nams Wailisha says hello, tune in from Mogadishu. Good morning to you. Shamongwai. The Situation Room is live in Rongai and Nakuru. He says, say hi to Siti Muga. Siti Muga, you have been adequately salimiwat.
Yes, I have responded in kind and said hello.
Voila. Stanley Gashistan says, good morning, tune in from Juja Farm. Velima Justine tuned in from Busia. Evelyn Kavaya tuned in and says on board for Friday. Happy second anniversary. That's from Omenda Mose. Rachel Wambai, The Situation Room. Excellent, insightful, deep conversation. Asante Sana. David Kiari Wasubukia says good morning today. And Charity's tuned in as well. Prudence Maranyana tuned in from South Africa. Happy second anniversary. Well, Asante. Good morning, Eric Ndu. Good morning, Eric CT and Ndu. Still in Gishugu. Well, that's all right. Morning, Didi Cruz and Thailand Silas live from Bujumbura. Okay. Happy second anniversary, Spice FM. Always my best station. That's Vincent Omondi. Shiena Wahoo tuned in from Kajiado North. We're in Rongai. Great morning show, says Wesley Ajega is tuned in from Kapsabet. And Maurice Lagat is tuned in from Nandi County. Okay, from South Africa, Rulani Chauke and Collins Kimtai also. Jeffrey Mochama tuned in from Kisumu. So many people tuned in. Can't get to everybody this morning, but thank you for tuning in. Saharan, we see you in Kisumu. Asante Sana.
Karibuni Kilam too, yes, and thank you very much for wishing us a happy anniversary. Happy anniversary, guys.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you as well, sir.
It's been good doing this for the last 2 years.
Yes. It's fun. It's fun. But also just to acknowledge, let's just acknowledge, I want to acknowledge you guys. It's been fun working with you in this for those 2 years. You're good peeps. You're good peeps.
Oh, Eric.
Good character. Good mind.
You know, Eric, I really have to thank you. It's the first time I've been called a peep.
You peep.
Yes. And the two of us are peeps.
The three of us are peeps. I must say, you guys make it easy.
And,
you do.
But actually, apart from you two wonderful people, the people who make this thing possible, you know this list we keep reading every morning, to the point where I even know the names, I don't know the people.
Yeah.
There's a Sharagumwai. That's a gentleman who's always on some train or the other.
Going somewhere or the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
People calling in, people tweeting, people sending messages from all over the world, listening. You know, if they weren't telling us what they're doing, the spice that makes this show possible really wouldn't be there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's true.
And then those who call in.
Yeah.
And then those whom we invite.
Yeah. And they
And
come.
come.
And they come. Or at least we have a chat. And then there are those we invite who are yet to come.
But they will.
But they will.
Oh, yes. And let's not forget the other guys as well. John, the producer. It's good having John on the show.
Absolutely.
It is wonderful.
Every morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's Mr. Juma,
Yes, and Juma.
the headmaster of the studio.
And Amulioto.
I'm Lyoto who
Papa.
does the thing.
Yes.
Papa.
And then there's the overall boss,
As you call him.
Brian Omwami.
Oh, Mwami.
Brian Omwami. Yeah? The great leader.
The great leader.
Yes.
The one and only.
The one and only.
Yes.
Yeah?
And then, you go up that chain.
Keep going up.
Yes. There's Tom Kundu Japani Muhongo.
Eh.
The big man himself. Yes.
Going all the way up to Joe Munene and the rest.
Yes, Joe Munene, and then you go up to, by the time you become chairman, as in CEO, because chairman is now CEO, not chairman of the board, just chairman of the, that one. You now become, like I told you, you're now brother. Yes.
Asanteni sana kila mtu city. So today's proverb.
I'm going to deviate.
A 2-year-old child.
This is not a 2-year-old child. Okay? I am going to quote, you'll help me here.
Okay.
There's a French writer, philosopher really. His name, I know how to pronounce, Voltaire. I even know how to spell it. There is a book that was attributed to his writing. I don't know how to pronounce it. But let me read it out, then you can pronounce it appropriately. Les Miserables.
Les Miserables.
See? That one.
The Miserables.
The Miserables, yes. Yes.
Are you going to say the proverb in French?
No.
Stand up.
This isn't a blue session moment. This I'm just going to read in
You're
English.
doing very well.
Yes, okay. When a soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. You do not blame the ones who committed the sin, but the ones who created the darkness. There's a character in that book. The name is Monsieur Bienvenu.
Monsieur Bienvenu.
Yes.
Mr. Welcome. Ati, there's a what? Say again that quote.
Okay. Hapo zamani za kale. When a soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. Do not blame the ones who committed the sins, but the ones who created the darkness.
Okay. Okay.
See, we begin a new dawn. And the dawn is often preceded by darkness, is it not? Abbas.
So blame those who created the darkness.
Well, that is what.
Not the sinners.
Well.
Okay. This one will be debated, but let's go on. Headlines. You said how many pages yesterday?
Oh, Wednesday. The
World
Nation.
Athletics, under 20 athletics.
Nation.
Yes.
8 pages.
8 pages.
Yes, from the back. Just count. 1 to 8. I counted.
Very nice. Today, 1, 2, 3, 4.
4. Okay.
Today, 4.
The
yes.
Standard had 4. The Star had 3.
Right. Very good stuff that's happening at Kasarani.
Business Daily had none. No. They had a small caption at the
They
front.
had something.
Small.
And a
the
photo.
Front. A photo at the front, yes.
Yep. It's good stuff that's happening at Kasarani. Also, NTV is airing this. Of course, they've got the rights to air this, so they're airing this throughout the day. But it's interesting to see what is happening. Now, if we could have 7,000 people in one tent in Homa Bay, can't we just have 7,000 people in Kasarani?
Surely. Might as
That
well
has a
go and
capacity
support-
of 60,000. We can talk to Lord Sebastian Coe. I know he's here. He'll be wondering, but no, we don't allow. This is Kenya.
You can't allow for this.
Come on. Okay, let's...
His lordship is an impressive lordship. That man ran all the way to a lordship.
Yes.
To a peerage.
All the way.
Yes.
Lord Sebastian Coe.
Well, those who don't know about him do not know the stuff that guy did. These races that Kenyans just keep winning willy-nilly. That man was not a contender, but a world champion.
He was winning them
He was
willy-nilly.
winning them, yes.
So it's good stuff. Even the Standard today has the front page. Kenya basks in golden glory after medals harvest. Kenya yesterday showed the world why it's an athletics powerhouse. Benson Kiplangat won the men's 5,000 meters gold. Teresia Gateri and Zena Yego bagged gold and silver in the women's 3,000 meters at the Under-20 Athletics Championships. Back page also have that photo of Teresia Gateri celebrating after winning the 3,000 meters race, and then also shows Kiplangat beating Ethiopia's Tadesu Woku and servicemen clearing water after rainfall during the championships. Yes, today, what's happening today? We have decathlon, the hammer, 100-meter hurdles, round one, long jump, 100-meter hurdles, 110-meter hurdles for men. Hammer throw, high jump, 1,500 meters heats for women. Shot put, 6 kilograms. We've got long jump for women, 200 meters heats for women and men. All taking place in the morning. In the afternoon, we've got javelin, triple jump, 3,000 meters steeplechase for men, heats, 100 meters hurdles, semis for women, high jump. We've got the 100 meter, very good events, 200 meters semis for women and men also this afternoon. And then the women's 3,000 meters steeplechase final at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, what I'd like us to have a conversation with our guest at 7 is looking at these ones: decathlon, hammer, long jump, shot put. Are we participating in this? Javelin, after we got a guy train himself and go on ahead and win a world championship, do we have other people who are doing the javelin throw in this country? Are they being supported? Are they being nurtured? This is important.
If I may just deviate ever so slightly.
Yes.
There's this competition, it's called Iron Man, and I think is the Iron Woman equivalent?
Mm-hmm.
There is actually.
Yes. It's not an Olympic sport, is it?
No.
Okay. Just thought I would just ask. But it's...
What happens in Ironman?
You do several things. You see, there's the running bit that caught my attention. But then there's a swimming bit. Then there's a cycling bit. Yes. There are all these bits that put together
become iron.
Can we see the smelting process begins?
Okay, 6:30. Let's take a quick break and take a look at the traffic. And then we look at more headlines, what's in the papers then this morning. A very good morning to you wherever you're tuned in. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality.
We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Indeed, this morning it's already starting to build up. We're seeing some traffic on Mombasa Road as usual. I don't know, man. Today, it doesn't look pretty. Mombasa Road at all. It has started very, very early, from about 5 in the morning, and it looks like folks are leaving the city. But we're going to have to keep an eye on things today. Also on Thika Road outbound, we saw a little bit of issue earlier, and then we see a little bit just, Juja Road coming in that direction, and then on the other side of things, Survey is wide open, no issues there. As you're getting to the Muthui Square, however, from Kiambu Road, it's starting to pile up as well. We're looking at that roundabout on off Langata Road. coming to the Timor. And that's already building up. And we're seeing some also coming out of Westlands, building up there as well. So it looks as though things have woken up quite early today. So we're going to keep an eye on things. I hope it doesn't get too sticky. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Behaving well on the roads, right? It's important.
It is very, very important. However, you know what? NTSA, in conjunction with the European Union, is asking us all to be a little bit more careful, and it's absolutely necessary to do just so. So how are we behaving on the roads this morning or every day, really? And we are saying that thousands of people thousands of lives are lost on the roads every single day, every single year. Many more are left dealing with the devastating effects of these crashes. Majority of these crashes can be avoided. Majority of the loss of these lives can actually be avoided. We're talking about speeding. We're talking about drink driving. We're talking about dangerous overtaking, distracted driving, texting, talking on the phone while you're driving without using a hands-free set. Failure to use seatbelts, lack of safety gear such as helmets and reflector jackets, among others. So, we are saying to address these challenges on our roads, calling on every single road user to play their part, as everything can change in a split second. A decision that you make in a split second could be the difference between life and death. So we're saying please be extremely careful as you use the roads. Usalama Barabarani starts with you. Fika Salama. It's a message brought to you by NTSA and the European Union.
I think we're all inherently good people and we want to behave well on the road. But then you sit behind the wheel of a Probox and something happens. You lose it.
Yep.
Anyway. Another headline. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at two articles.
Right.
The same paper. Very interesting. Okay? And it all has to do with money. Let me start with something that may lift the hearts and souls of many people who like traveling by train. SGR posts 33% rise in revenue. That is from January to June. Okay? This, according to an article written by a gentleman by the name of John Muthui, is because of the rebounding economy. And the statistics indicate this. This is data from the National Bureau of Statistics. It shows that the passenger and cargo train generated 7.93 billion in the period from 5.96, meaning previously, same period of time, last year, 5 billion generated now. So I was doing the maths and I was thinking to myself, so if I do the maths for that particular period of time, you're talking January, that's 6 months, and this is the money it's generated. And I divide that, okay, by 6. Just divide it so that I understand. It comes to a very interesting sum. It comes to just above 1 billion shillings every month. Okay?
That is being generated.
Yes, it's generated. So I asked myself, so what are the costs of running this particular business? And when we say we had issues with paying back, these are serious amounts. 1 billion shillings a month, unless someone tells me that in this industry 1 billion shillings a month doesn't amount to anything. This, yes, we may have issues to do with costs, but it is not as though this particular enterprise is not making money. Then, not very long ago, we talked about equity and the profits that they had posted. Okay? Now, KCB announced its half-year results yesterday. Okay? Now, they, according to their balance sheet, just balance sheet, like Kitabu, trading, nini, KCB, this one, the CEO had actually mentioned this to me. At that time, they were at 900 billion. They have surpassed the trillion mark. They are at 1.12 trillion.
How about it?
They are worth a trillion.
Trillion. Then, profits have also doubled. They've moved from 7.58 to 15.3 billion.
And you people say there's no money in Kenya.
When I keep telling you people there's money in Kenya, now I think you'll believe me.
Yeah.
Will you now believe me? Now, the last story that I want to talk about with this is National Bank of Kenya, notorious for making losses. Absolutely notorious for the longest time.
Are these your headlines or actual headlines in the paper?
My analysis.
Okay.
Last year, they made a net loss of 381 million Kenya shillings. This year, they have made 717 million net profit.
They've moved from net loss to net profit in a year.
Yes.
This is after takeover by KCB.
Yes.
Very good. Very good stuff.
So that story of being the perennial net loss making enterprise that has been reversed.
Came from a bad position to a good position. It was a good bank anyway.
National Bank was one of the best banks that we actually ever had in this country. But then I think this is where now you look at the management and the CEO of that said bank and you say, these fellows, Mr. Ogara and his team seem to know what they're doing, don't you?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
Or, no, let's not forget to give credit to also the board of management, or the board of directors, led by a certain Mr. Andrew Cairo. Yes, they seem to know what they're doing.
They seem to know what they're doing.
Yes.
Kudos as well to the CEO of National Bank, my friend and classmate Paul Russo. It's good stuff.
Repeat that, class and who?
Friend and classmate.
Of?
Mine.
Which bank?
National Bank. The one who's brought that profit.
I've heard. I've heard. That plan we had.
Imagine.
Yes.
Here I am. This is what I do on a daily basis. This is what Russo is making 700 million shillings for his organization. Okay, now, page 8. Page 8 of The Nation. Irony of rich banks in an ailing economy.
I knew that was going
Meanwhile.
to come up.
Right? So, Otiato Guguyu, who's written this story, starts by saying, if you had 1,000 shillings in August last year and used it to buy 30.3 Equity Bank shares, your stake in the lender would be worth 1,626 today, having grown 62.6%. You'd also be on your way to sharing the more than 10 billion shillings dividends expected to be distributed by the bank to the owners at the end of the year. If you had put the same amount in an Equity Bank account, the money would have earned you zero returns, underlining the growing gap between the real economy and the financial markets that will see billions in profit flow into the pockets of shareholders as the rest of the economy dithers. Bankers are set to reward chief executive officers and shareholders billions of shillings in bonuses and dividends for doubling profits, a miraculous feat given the tough economic environment, whereas loans to the private sector credit have been subpar, 7.1% in May, and bank rewards to depositors are also at the lowest level, with saving rates standing at 2.5%. Banks are posting supernormal profits.
But you know, this can be explained.
So this is what is happening. Money going to the private sector in terms of lending to the private sector, low.
Very low.
Money in terms of interest earned in fixed deposits, very low.
Extremely low.
Profits?
Yes. Why? Because of internal borrowing. The biggest borrower from our banks is our government. Through treasury bills, bonds, all these legal paper that we generate. And the government offers a guarantee and a safe haven for investments. So, yes, in an economy such as this one here, banks will make money. But let's not single out banks. Today is a good day. Celebrating birthday, anniversary, and so forth. Okay? Remember, those in the ICT world are also making money hand over fist. Because with COVID, with lockdown, it does not matter which industry you're in. Every industry has hyped and has moved up their consumption of those services. So people who are in that space, one could almost argue they don't know what to do themselves. Because the demand for the services has skyrocketed, literally skyrocketed. Yes.
People in the IT world.
Yes, whether you're a service provider, whether you provide hardware, whether you provide software, but that world right now is booming.
Making money.
Yes.
Making money. Now, banks should also now start thinking of how to increase lending to the private sector. Support businesses. You have the money anyway. It's not like you're running out of cash.
Yes. If only the social element that we keep referring to was as prevalent as we'd like it to be in the banking sector. It usually isn't.
Bas. No.
So, do you remember some time ago when we saw videos that had appeared on TV about a South Sudanese billionaire? Well,
is it just one?
Well, this particular one was quite...
The interview with Jeff Koinange.
His name was Lawrence Lwal Malong Yor Jr. Well, he's been sentenced to 6 years in a Ugandan prison for running an international fake gold scam from Nairobi. The flamboyant South Sudanese socialite could not explain the sources of his money. I always post money online because, as you know, I'm a very rich man. As you see, I am wearing Jimmy Choo shoes.
Oh, dear.
And you know how much they cost?
Oh, dear.
$10,000.
Oh, dear.
Plus, I have a Rolex watch with a diamond costing $1 million.
Ooh.
He had told TV at that time. I got my wealth from, guess where? The Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I fly on private jets. I live in presidential suites. I am blessed. Well, now, his new abode is prison.
You really must be positive about such things, Ndu. Blessings come in many, many ways.
Yeah. He's going to bless now people in prison.
Yeah, this is a new level of blessing.
Yeah.
Yes, he's been given a scholarship by the Ugandan government.
Okay.
When he was asked about the source of his wealth, he was like, how come when I was poor, you never asked the source of my poverty? What is this? When I'm poor, you don't ask the source of my poverty.
Now,
when I'm rich, it's like, oh, where is the source of your wealth? What, you want me to remain poor?
He had said his name had created public uproar across East Africa after a media investigation referred to him as son of General Paul Malong, the former South Sudanese chief of general staff and one of the strong men fighting for power in the war-torn nation. Yor, or Young Tycoon, or Donald Trump Jr., as he preferred to be called, had pushed himself to the top echelons of Nairobi's social scene, where flamboyance determines how popular or influential you are. From his adopted Nairobi home, Young Tycoon rose to celebrity status by posting images of an over-the-top lifestyle of private jets, luxury hotels, first-class travel, expensive clothing, and swimming in dollars. Literally swimming in dollars. At one point, his popularity got so much into his head that he was prepared to pay 1 million shillings to any musician who would get into a studio and sing a song about him. I donate money, help the poor, and I am very generous. There is need to acknowledge my good personality in a song, he said, and this would be the most preferred kind of communication. That was in 2019. Now, having been asked to declare his wealth, he was unable to do this. And it would appear as though now all those things that he said have gone out the window. And it seems that quite a number of rackets have then been linked to him across the world, from Dubai to London to Entebbe to Nairobi. And it doesn't look good for him at all. And now it seems that there was a gold scandal, a gold scam, essentially, that is the straw that broke the camel's back. Young Tycoon, as a result of this, has been sentenced to 6 years in a Ugandan prison.
6?
Yes.
6 only?
For now.
That's fine. You'll preach the word of the Lord in there.
For running an international fake gold scam. So apparently this is something...
Hush Papi got how many years? The Nigerian who was arrested in Dubai.
36, have you?
Years.
36 years in American prison. And this was after he cut a deal.
Yeah.
So what are they going to give him? 102?
You wonder. Concurrent sentence.
14 minutes to 7 o'clock. Quick break. We'll look at more headlines shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, I don't have a story, I just have a photo to talk about here. Today in history, on page 18 of the Daily Nation. On August 20th, 1979, a 2-hour closed-door KANU parliamentary group meeting attended by almost all members of the National Assembly at Parliament buildings proposed amendments raising parliamentary election expenses to 40,000 shillings per candidate and 20,000 shillings for Kajuras.
For what?
Councillors.
Oh, so confused.
40,000 shillings for MP.
Okay.
20,000 shillings for council seats.
He's actually...
That was the cap.
He's speaking Kikwao.
No.
That was the cap. You're talking about election campaign financing. In 1979, it was capped at 40,000 shillings if you want to be an MP. If you want to be a councillor, 79. Was it a lot of money?
Hey?
40,000 shillings in 1979.
40,000 shillings in 1979. Do you have any idea the salaries people used to earn then?
No.
If you earn 400 shillings, you're earning a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yes. If you earned 1979. If you earn 1,000 shillings, you're doing very well. If you earn 2,000 shillings, God, you are rich.
You are rich.
Kabisa.
So spending 40,000 shillings.
You really had to try.
It's preposterous. Sources said the issue of basic academic requirements, which is another conversation happening in Parliament today, for candidates proposed in Parliament the previous week were dropped, with the PG Secretary, Dr. Gekonyo Keano, saying, "We resolved to have the status quo remain. The present legislation requiring one to pass a language test is enough." The photo is here of Daniel Arap Moi, his Vice President Mwai Kibaki, and other members of Parliament walking out of Parliament buildings after that meeting. At that point, they were still talking about basic academic requirement for MP. And they said, just speak. Pass a language test. That's enough. Today, we are still talking about basic academic requirement for legislators. Higher. That's my story.
You know, you have a story. Do you have a story?
I always have a story, but carry on.
No, me, I have two stories.
Okay.
You know this issue of maths, the bug caught me today. And I was thinking of this article we spoke of yesterday with regards to the number of students who qualified to go to universities but declined.
Yep.
The number was 38,900 and something, so I rounded off to 39,000. And I was doing some maths, what if sort of like maths. What if per semester a student was supposed to pay 10,000 shillings per semester, right? And there are 39,000 of them. You know what it amounts to? 390 million shillings per semester. Okay? If it's half that number, then you're talking about 180 million. Now, a year has how many semesters?
3.
3 semesters. So if you multiply 390 plus 390 gives you 780. 780 390, that is 117. Yes. 1.17 billion. So I was thinking, yes, with this number, it occurred to me that the losses the universities are going to make are colossal. Remember, I put at 10,000 because I was assuming not very many students will pay all the fees. Whatever the case is, it's more than 10,000. Okay? It is a lot of money that is actually not going to be received. And I'm thinking of job losses. I'm thinking of restructuring. I'm thinking of all the things. But that story of yours preempted a story that I was going to tell, which is on page 2 of the Standard. The echoes of the past, as they call it, that simply will not fade away. Okay? Now, way back, 45 years ago, there was a meeting held in Nakuru. Famous place is Nakuru. Okay? And this meeting was attended because there was this debate about the succession for the presidency. Succession. Jomo Kenyatta. We're now talking succession. I'm tying the two quickly. Succession, Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay?
Right.
July 1976. There was a casual debate between the then Nakuru MP, one gentleman called Kika Kimani. He's referred to as cantankerous. He spoke as though he was always angry. I grew up in Nakuru, so I even remember hearing him. I think that is just the tone of his voice. I thought that he was always angry, but he spoke as though he was angry. Jenga Karume. And now this discussion, it suddenly occurred to, according to this article, one Kika Kimani that, hey, hiya, if something should happen to the president, automatically after 90 days, the vice president becomes who? President. Hey! Goodness. My friend, meetings at night, and it followed. But of interest, the meetings took place in Nakuru. There was another one scheduled for Mombasa. All I'm saying is, the flurry of activities that we are seeing now, because it's succession again, it's not something that has happened. The only thing is, we're drawing on who? The progeny of some of the players. There's Uhuru Kenyatta. There's Raila Odinga. Okay.
There's Susan Kihika.
There's, of course, Susan Kihika. And the positions that people are taking and the similarities and differences thereof. So if someone tells you that history repeats itself, you may think it's a bit bland and not true. There are similarities if you really go back in time to events and circumstances. And then you can juxtapose from there and see what happened. One Charles Mugabe Njonjo intervened and said, anybody who even imagines that the death of a president committing treason, that story died. Zip.
Yeah, onomatopoeia this morning.
Did it die or did it go under?
Usually, death requires a certain going under. And that group was called the Change the Constitution group at that time. And the parallel being drawn right now is that Uhuru Kenyatta and his best buddy, one Raila Molo Odinga, are also now trying to change the Constitution. Yes.
The more things change,
the more...
Ça plus.
Ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
Very good.
Yes.
Can I give you another story?
Yes.
So, Gisheru set for ICC pre-trial hearing. The ICC is scheduled to conduct a pre-trial hearing for the case facing Kenyan lawyer Paul Gisheru, setting the stage for the trial, whose outcome will have a bearing on the collapsed case of Deputy President William Ruto. According to The Nation, trial judge Mita Maria Samba yesterday said the status conference will be held on the 17th of September and directed parties, Mr. Gisheru's defense team and the Office of the Prosecutor, to file their written arguments by September 10th. To facilitate the preparation of the status conference and to enable the trial chamber to set the date for the commencement of the trial, the judge directed the prosecution to provide information on the evidence it anticipates to table against Mr. Gisheru. Remember that there was an appeal before this, but that was shut down, and they said, look, forget it, we're going ahead. And this case is actually going to take place. The trial, rather, is going to take place. The information should contain the estimated number of witnesses to be called, a number of hours of the in-court testimony, and whether the prosecutors will use expert witnesses. So, just a few points on this case. Lawyer Gisheru is accused of offering 20.4 million shillings in bribes for witnesses to withdraw from the case that was facing Deputy President William Ruto and radio presenter Joshua Sang. In the event of conviction, the court may impose a term of imprisonment not exceeding 5 years or a fine or both.
This case isn't going away, is it?
No. Even when many
just
parties
starting.
thought that it was going to kind of go away and fizzle out of existence, but it's just beginning. And it looks from all indications that things are going to roll along quite quickly compared to how things normally roll in courts such as these. This is actually going much quicker than expected. And
in the fullness of time, you just hope that there will be justice for those who are affected.
the wheels
That's
of justice
post-election
grind slow but
violence.
sure.
Remember we spoke to that lady who was raped.
Yes.
And she got a child. And so many years down the road, she's still...
Listening to her voice, the things she was saying, it had pain written all over it. It had pain covering it. It had pain fronting it. It was painful to listen. You know, there must be a demand and there must be high threshold of expectations that are there on anyone who wants to be a leader. This issue of this chapter 6 we keep discussing as though it's a bedbug and something that you must get rid of. We must have and must hold leaders to a really high ethical and moral standard.
That's true.
Because if we don't, what we saw was a prelude of things that happened. We are seeing those things happening in other countries. What makes us think that we are so special?
Yeah,
it can't
that
happen to us.
here.
Exactly.
I have a story before we go to the top of the hour. So, just the other day in Nairobi, last Tuesday, police near the junction of Agwins Kothek Road and Ring Road, Kilimani, this is near Yaya Center, spotted a V8 vehicle, a black V8 vehicle that did not have number plate. So they flagged it down. These are traffic police officers. Wapi number plate ya gari, these occupants could not explain. There was some commotion back and forth. The officers gained entry into the vehicle and commandeered the vehicle to the nearest Kilimani police station. At Kilimani police station, they conducted a search and they found some guns in this vehicle. A Seska pistol, whose serial number had been erased, and a second firearm, a revolver with initials of police serial number KKP 36338. These guys were making frantic phone calls. Hey, the owner of the car, the owner of the car. Somebody else came in a separate car, Mercedes-Benz, and said, oh, guys, this is my vehicle. Oh, is it? Yeah. Kuja papia wewe. They searched his vehicle. They found a Seska magazine with 9 bullets in the Mercedes-Benz. Investigations now from that simple minor traffic issue have seen the arrest, or not arrest, but a summoning of a DCI officer based in Mombasa being asked to come to Nairobi. Somebody else who works in a powerful office, they are saying maybe State House. The DCI officer was picked up from her workstation and driven to Nairobi after the Seska pistol, 7 bullets and police handcuffs were found in the civilian car. Separately, her boss in Mombasa has also been summoned to Nairobi to record statements on the whereabouts of this particular officer on Tuesday when the weapons were being recovered in Nairobi. This gun that was found was actually issued to this particular DCI officer whose station is Mombasa. Guns are found in a vehicle without number plates in Kilimani, Nairobi. Issues.
Yes.
Big issues.
Yes, you do.
Big issues. Keep it right here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We are celebrating our 2nd anniversary today at SpiceFM. We started broadcasting on this day 2 years ago, and we're happy. Very good morning to you. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Kenyans are eager to know the fate of BBI as the Court of Appeal today gives its judgment over the matter filed in court by the pro-BBI supporters. The appellate court will be pronouncing itself on the matter, especially on the pertinent issues of whether the entire process followed the correct procedures as required by the law. During the ruling, only 16 lawyers will be allowed in court. But as we wait for the ruling later today, what are Kenyans expecting?
Hakuna kitu inasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida. Hiyo ni ya kutajirisha wale wako huko juu. Mimi naomba koti iagushe kabisa, itupilie bali.
Vile baba ametuambia BBI kama itaenda through hapo sawa. Ikianguka si tunakubaliana baba focus na presidency.
BBI ipite 100%. Kwa maana hiyo BBI sio ya Raila au Ruto. Hii ni ya wajuko, ni ya mwananchi. Mnaleta pesa majinani mjisaidie.
BBI ni nyoka.
Kwa nini mnaleta? Usilete siasa ya 22 na BBI.
The constitutional changes process through the BBI has been with the country for about 4 years now. Its proponents have canvassed the country trying to explain why the changes to the constitution are important, while those opposing the changes to the document have equally made sure that Kenyans hear their reasoning. During that period, political alignments were formed and some were equally broken. Just what has been the mood during the entire BBI process?
BBI sio ya kusaidia Uhuru, ni wewe my friend utafaidika wewe. Wengine wanawaambia Uhuru anataka kutawala. Mimi najua mwaka ujao mimi naenda nyumbani. Nobody can stop reggae.
Nobody can stop reggae. This story we are being told
about nobody can stop reggae. If the reggae is what reggae will stop.
Mr. Speaker, as a promoter, I managed to convince 43 counties, Mr. Speaker, to support the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Meanwhile, Deputy President William Ruto said that Kenyans don't need politics that are of no benefit to them. Speaking in his Karen residence while hosting religious leaders from Embu County, the DP said that the constitutional changes process through the BBI is not aimed at addressing issues Kenyans have, but to benefit a few individuals get positions.
Through the economic revolution provided by the bottom-up economic model, it is not the coalition of the mighty or powerful or known or the great, but it is going to be the alliance of the ordinary people that is going to assemble our energy and create the revolution that will give everybody an equal opportunity by changing our economy.
The 7th Devolution Conference will not proceed between the 23rd of 26th of this month as earlier planned due to COVID-19 restrictions that banned all gatherings. Despite the cancellation of the conference, however, head teacher Makueni Boys High School says they have benefited from the exercise after facilities were improved in readiness for the event. However, those that had been contracted to offer various services are a sad lot due to losses they'll incur. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Okay, so 7 o'clock and everything seems to have busted out. We have some traffic coming out of Westlands and it looks quite heavy in some areas as you're heading towards the city. Uhuru Highway through and through. And this is from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout out towards Haile Selassie and then going all the way through to Westlands and in the opposite direction as well. Jogo Road is also quite tight this morning as you get to the City Stadium roundabout out then towards Landys Road. We're going to still see that issue. All right, what are we looking at on the Thika Superhighway? It's not too bad this morning. Actually, I take that back. It absolutely is. And we have traffic going almost towards just before the Utali dip, but then thereafter it's very tight between that and the Pangani underpass and then out towards Ngara. Oh, doesn't look pretty there at all, guys. All right, Langata Road also has built up quite some, and it's going to take us through to the Timor roundabout. Bagadi Way actually looks good as a roundabout way into the city. Let's use those, shall we? The Southern Bypass, Eastern Bypass, Northern, and the Red Hill Link Road looking pretty good this morning. Again, use those. And then if you should still get stuck, talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's talk on text on 40127. Let's try as much as possible to keep it moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
6 minutes after 7. A very good morning to you. Second hour of The Situation Room this lovely Friday morning, 20th day of August, 2021. City, today's proverb?
Indeed. Today is a day, is it not?
Yes.
When the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. You do not blame the ones who committed the sin, but the ones who created the darkness.
When a soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed.
Mm-hmm.
Focus thou not on the sinner, but rather on the one who created the darkness. You'll see those stories that are usually told of several politicians who are in a room having a conversation, and then the lights go off, and you hear someone screaming, "Ow!" and the sound of a slap, someone screaming, and someone else asking, "Huh?"
What's that?
When the lights come on, you don't know
You don't know who slapped you, and everybody's looking none the wiser.
No. I'm going to ask this question. Are the politicians all male? Are they all female? Are they a mixed group?
A mix.
Then that one is not difficult to figure out.
Who slapped who?
Ask yourself, which sound do you hear first? That will give you an indication of what has happened.
Slap. And then you hear someone screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And then, remember, the one who's slapping could also scream.
Now, my friend, you have understood this perfectly. You slap, you kick, and you scream at the same time.
And then the lights come on, but you all heard me screaming, so I must have been the one who was slapped.
Don't you get the impression that that practice makes perfect?
I'm telling you, it's either you've been slapping or being slapped.
So now you're saying all those people with everybody the burning cheek, do not ask who slapped you. Ask who switched off the lights. That's what you're telling us to focus on. True.
If the lights had been on,
I would not be having this burning cheek.
This discussion wouldn't be happening.
Everybody was slapped.
You know, it's like
when the lights come on,
Eric,
everybody had been slapped.
It's an interesting juxtaposition because I'm thinking.
But everybody had tried to slap someone. But now nobody wants to say, I've been slapped.
Eric, do you remember those days when votes would not be counted at the polling station? There was a tallying station where all the votes went to.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And without fail, the counting of votes would go into the night. That counting was often characterized by lights going off.
Yes.
And sometimes shots would be fired into the air, and people would take off.
Now, it is not a historical thing. It's a fact. It happened in Juja just recently in the by-election.
Yes,
remember, even IEBC commission recognized the officers.
Yes, they did.
Lights went off. When lights come back on, there are people. There's a new ballot box. There's an order to count.
But
nothing happened before.
The ones who took the cup, forget the ballot box. Some even just brought naked ballots and said, count these.
Count. You must count these ones.
These are the ones which matter.
Yes.
Only in Kenya.
These things happen only in this country. But maybe not. Maybe they happen elsewhere. Our guest for this hour is getting into the studio shortly. We'll be talking about what's happening in Kasarani, but let's also look at some other interesting stories that are taking place. Right? Two stories are happening in Mombasa. One is that a Senate committee has halted the 6 billion shilling Buxton housing estate in Mombasa and ordered Governor Hassan Joho to provide answers to queries raised by residents. The Standing Committee on Roads and Transport said yesterday that the questions raised by the residents through Mombasa Senator Mohamed Faki are pertinent and cannot be wished away. Committee Chairman Senator Kimani Wamatangi says the project must be stopped forthwith. In a petition, residents are alleging the process that resulted in the deal between the Mombasa County and Buxton Point Apartment is opaque and was not subjected to mandatory public participation. The compensation package and how the affected persons are to be resettled are also a major concern by the committee that toured the project yesterday. So this Senate committee, upon getting some petition from some residents of Buxton, even went to Buxton. Remember this Buxton project? We discussed it here with the man in charge of it, the Buxton Point Apartment, and this is Suleiman Shabal, who wants to be governor of Mombasa. Now, the Senate committee has said, stop everything. Halt.
Do they have the powers to halt it?
It's the Senate committee. They have ordered.
It doesn't matter whether they've ordered it. Do they have the powers to stop it?
Until all answers are brought.
Once again, do they have the powers to stop it?
The committee took issue.
Just asking a simple question, because making a declaration...
Say whatever you like.
Look, Have we not been discussing declarations, COVID, rules,
We will, we shall,
public
we did.
meetings, blah, 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 fish cakes. Then what do you see?
Nada.
And again, onomatopoeia, da-dang, you see it. Okay?
Yeah.
So now, Senate committee. No.
Halt this project for the next 14 days.
What
Within that
powers-
time, the governor must come to us and respond to these concerns by the residents.
But it's not the governor. Is it the governor?
Yes, it's the governor who signed the deal with the with the PPP, the PPP
Yes,
with
he
Buxton
did.
Apartments.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But do they have the powers to actually stop the project? Because I really just want to know if they have the powers. They have the powers to summon. That much I know.
Yes.
But do they have the powers to stop
To
the
stop.
project?
I don't know.
You know, there have been attempts to stop that project on 3 separate occasions by the tenants, other tenants.
Matter has gone to court.
Yes. So on separate occasions, we've had public interest, individuals who've taken the matter to court. Now, and that is what halted it, the court process. A Senate committee summoning the governor. I need to understand how that stops the project and what powers they have to stop projects. That's really what I need.
Yeah.
Because if they do, then I will have to ask the question, why have they not exercised these powers in stopping so many other things that they could have been stopped? For instance, summoning the KEMSA individuals and stopping that whole process. Did they stop the whole process?
No.
People had to go to court.
Nope.
Nope.
So
it's a good question that you're asking. It's a very good question that you're raising. However, there's also the other side of this particular project. Why so many headwinds on a project that's on paper and in principle meant to benefit even the number one beneficiary is the current resident of Buxton Estate.
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And that is documented from beginning to end.
There's something that isn't being said loudly enough about these projects, and that is the social housing element to it. These are tenants of the county, as they were tenants of the council before them.
Yeah.
Now, the arrangement and the legal understanding that a tenant has with their landlord is they give you notice if they want you to leave.
Sure.
Yes, and it's 1 month's notice. But this particular project, as with others under the Urban Renewal Project, have a social element to it, so that the developers are actually affording the tenants a relocation amount.
Yep.
Okay? Now in Buxton, I'm trying to think, I'm not sure of the amount, whether it's 250,000, 300,000 shillings. Now, it's a decent amount. This is move, find a place to stay,
Afford to pay rent.
Rent, yes.
We're paying rent for you for the place that you're going to stay.
so that you can settle, okay? Now, before
And then-
you do, there's an understanding. You have first priority in choosing a property that you will own after this. And you will pay favorable rates for it. Now, there's been a debate, favorable rates, market rates.
What are those?
But you are offered that one. So you have a chance to actually
And it's a
own
long
it.
term, a
Yes.
very long term sort of mortgage.
It is
Owner occupier, you shall pay back this house.
15, 20
Yes.
years. And even if you don't want to buy it, you can rent it.
Yeah.
The options are provided for. Now, you want to ask yourself, what part of, and this thing has taken over 4 years, going to 5 years, to actually get to this point. What does the Senate think was missed out on? And by the way, this isn't the first developer. There was a developer who had been pre-qualified who did not take up the offer.
Or the question could be, what does the Senate think? You're asking, what does the Senate think was not taken care of, really, that they're now to look? Or who has some kind of significant interest in this project and would want to see it stopped for other reasons?
That is where I didn't want to go there.
Let's just go there.
Okay, let's, since we've arrived there, we might as well get there. The point is, Shabal is clearly a candidate or has shown interest of candidature.
Mombasa governorship.
Yes, he has.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the moment you hear word governor, remove your eyes from the governor for a moment and ask yourself, who are the players behind the governor? Or those gunning for this seat. Now, once you get to those behind the possible candidates, then you'll probably have an inkling as to what is actually going on.
Yeah,
Because a project like this will lift his profile.
for sure.
So this is just some serious politicking that's happening, and it's still affecting the
people.
beneficiaries.
At the end of
Because
the
it's
day,
not going to just be the current residents of Buxton. There's also the other residents of Mombasa County who have access to purchasing a new affordable house in Buxton Estate.
Yes.
refurbished, redone, with proper infrastructure put in. You can now go and buy. So you're basically just delaying,
Eric,
something that benefits the people.
The ripple effect is actually profound, and I'll explain. Because very near Buxton is a government estate, a county estate called Mzizima. They are also set for such a renewal. Then you have Likoni across the ferry. They are also up for this urban renewal. Then there's Changamwe, the biggest one. Now, the moment one project starts having hiccups, what do you think the other developers of these places are going to think and do?
Well, either they will say, look, this is the direction in which it's going. We are not going to go this way, and probably going to pull out as well.
Yes. Yeah. Because an election isn't far away. Every developer would like to see this thing underway. Remember, the only beneficial situation is that the tenants moved out.
Yeah.
Okay? But still, my question, does the Senate have the powers to stop an ongoing process? A project that has gone through all... You cannot start putting up that...
You come back and ask questions. We want to be given the documents of how this tendering happened.
You know,
because that's what they're asking for.
And
what
they
they're
were
asking
way
for
past
is
that process by now.
they want Joho to appear before them in person. He had sent the county secretary. They said, no. Who are you? You're below
Junior.
us. Too junior.
Low on the pecking order.
The appearance of Governor Joho, whom we have interacted so well in the past over this matter before us, is not optional or negotiable. He must come. The committee wants Joho to come and provide documents that showed how the project was tendered, advertised in national newspapers, resolutions by the executive and minutes of committee meetings held prior to the developer being awarded this tender. We are going all the way back. Who was the first person to conceive of this project? Okay. Was there a meeting that took place? Show us the minutes. Okay. How was the tendering done? Okay. How was advertising done? Okay.
Well, look.
All that. They want us to go back.
It appears to me as a serious attempt to frustrate a situation. It's like when you find that maybe somebody is up to no good, you take a sack of rice and beans and then you pour them together and you say, now you sit there and separate the rice from the beans.
Dude, this isn't a county project. It's a national project.
Mm.
Okay? It is not possible for you to undertake a PPP of this nature without
all of these processes having
without
gone
involving
through.
the national government. It is not possible.
So now here you are, you come late in the game and you say, okay, that's what I'm telling you. There's more than meets the eye here, because it's obvious that somebody somewhere would like to see this project stopped because, number one, they're not happy with it or doesn't benefit them as the way in which they would like it, because it is clear. By the time a project of such magnitude has reached where it has reached, they've crossed all the T's and dotted the I's. They've done the due diligence. You wanting to stop it?
This is on page 13 of the Standard this morning. Page 13 of the Standard. So anyway, Senate, work for the people. Don't work for investors and entrepreneurs as well. Just look at what is benefiting the people. So let's switch off our conversation to what we have been wanting to discuss the entire week. And this is the potential of Kenya's sporting talent and how we can maximize this. Our guest in the studio this morning is Rose Washuka. She previously worked as the Chief of Staff in the CS's office in the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage. Good morning, Rose.
Good morning, Eric.
Good to see you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
My colleagues Siti Muga and Nduoko are celebrating a birthday today, joint birthday, so you can say happy birthday to them.
Happy birthdays.
To SpiceFM. Please, you need to be very careful when you walk into Eric Latif Waters. It's SpiceFM's second birthday, so I think it's a good thing. We all celebrate. He too is celebrating.
Very spicy, very spicy.
Yes, it did. Huh? So, this week, from Tuesday, a global event is taking place in Nairobi at Kasarani. And we started talking about this last week and expressing our frustration at the fact that it doesn't appear like anything major is going to take place in Nairobi. And here we are today, because Kenya has started winning gold. We are seeing a lot of now front page coverage on this. But still, even our president meeting with opposition leaders does not come out to say, you know what, we have a major thing happening and I'm wishing my team. So anyway, that's the frustration that we've expressed here. But also coming on the back of what happened in Japan. We saw our team going to Japan participated. They won medals. Coming back here, yes, we were top in Africa. Yes, we were. How many were we in the what number are we globally? 19 globally, and all those things. But then asking ourselves, but what happened to rugby, to boxing, to swimming? Whatever happened to cricket in Kenya? Whatever happened to
hockey?
Right? Does it mean that we cannot take a rowing team to the Olympics?
We actually do have a rower at the Paralympic Games, Eric.
I see. We have a rower at the Paralympics. Say that again, Pa?
At the Paralympic Games.
Yes, at the Paralympics. And we didn't have one at the Olympics. Do we actually get a high profile of we have a rower?
Actually, this particular lady has been in the news for quite some time.
Our Paralympian.
Yes, yesterday, today.
It's good stuff.
That is really very good stuff.
Yes.
But, you are talking about races or competitions that didn't even feature 3,000 meter steeplechase.
Well, I'd like to change the gloom in this studio to something a bit more uplifting by saying that we all appreciate that indeed, and let's start with profiling the Kenyan team, and to say that actually this was the first time that we took the broadest team to the Olympic Games since independence. We had rugby men and women. We had volleyball, we had taekwondo, we had boxing, we had swimming. So the team was quite broad. And I think that is quite commendable coming on the back of a global pandemic. And to the performance, I think that, our athletes did exceptionally well. And the organization of the Olympic Games actually followed a very careful formula that was put in place by CS Amina Mohammed and PSG Okudo in conjunction with NOC and the KNPC, which is the Kenya National Paralympic Committee. So it was a very careful operation. And actually, Eric, Kenya was only a handful of countries that actually took COVID-free athletes and brought them back COVID-free. And I know we had an uproar about not having a bash at the airport, but actually, COVID-19 protocols did not stop operating because our team jetted back in. They jetted back in, they were received safely. We ensured that if they arrived at night, they had a sleepover at Ole Sereni. If they arrived in the morning, they had proper breakfast at Ole Sereni. But surely we were not expected to stage a bash at the airport in blatant disregard of the COVID-19 protocols. And so that is why you saw that kind of very controlled reception, because we knew that, or the Ministry of Sports understood the assignment of taking COVID-free athletes to Tokyo and bringing them back COVID-free. Remember, they did all this while planning a global championship. 1,500 athletes back in Kenya for the World Under 20 event, which was last held here in 2017 under the name of World Under 18. Now it's World Under 20. And I think that this event has been, we've known that this event is coming for the past, for quite some time. And I think there's been conversations in the media that this event is here. But actually, allow me to ask you, Eric, how much is the Kenyan media interested in Kenyan sports? Because I know that we are supposed, the ministry, the public, and the media are supposed to be allies. But yeah, that there's this event and championship. But how much of it are you, on your own volition, actually illuminating? How much of it are you marketing free without without asking to be paid by the public to do it?
How often do you listen to this show?
Quite often.
Okay.
And I'm not speaking to just SpiceFM.
No,
I'm talking about the entire ecosystem of the media. And I'm not picking a fight.
No,
this is a friendly conversation.
No. Why I asked how often you listen to the show is because we have been responding to this very question you've asked this whole week. We have raised the very same question that you have raised this whole week.
Yeah.
No day has passed when we haven't raised it. And we've asked, what on earth is this? We have this. Eric was very eloquent about it.
We feature politics for free, but why don't we feature sports for free?
Not only that, we asked the simple question. This is an international event. All the hotels in this town are full.
And we anticipate to bring about 16 billion in.
Yes. See those amounts?
Imagine.
These guys are rivaling banks. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, so we asked the question, why are we still reading about this B and this other B and this other I?
Orca.
And Orca.
Meeting where,
Yes,
meeting here,
yes,
doom or gloom.
And we will not shake hands. We will only walk behind some. I mean, we asked the question because we thought something is not right here, and we said so. But
and what you're raising is basically what you're raising is a valid point, and it's an important conversation to have. How important is this to all of us collectively as a nation? How important is it for the media houses to know that, let's illuminate the fact that this is happening soon after the Olympics, when everybody's attention was looking at the Olympics and the performance of the Kenyan team at the Olympics, and seeing the other countries and other nationalities being represented at the Olympics. And then many of those countries come to Kenya.
148.
They're in the country. And we are still Orca, and the rest is the headline. And we've been asking that question. I mean, we should actually be having more and more of this. On the day, for example, of the opening ceremony, my argument was, whatever it should have taken, yes, there's the rights being sold, but we should have found a way of ensuring that all our media houses on that night are showing the opening ceremony.
And Eric, allow me to say this, and I'm not saying this because I served as a former chief of staff in the ministry, that really we have seen a very clear shift in the way sports is managed from or by government. And if you allow me to give you the story of the Olympics, for the first time in history, actually, the government paid for every qualifying event. And the reason you saw, volleyball, rugby, swimming, more disciplines, sprints, going to the Olympics is because there was a very carefully planned qualification process. If you don't qualify at event X, government sends you to event Y. If you don't qualify in event Y, government sends you to Silesia. If you don't qualify in Silesia, government sends you in Geneva. If you don't qualify in Geneva, let's plan a world-class Olympics qualifier right at Kasarani to give our athletes the opportunity. So you're seeing for the first time that the athlete is at the center of operations. I can tell you, I'm wearing the World Under 20 business suit. This is how our athletes are dressing when they go into businesses, into business meetings. So you're seeing, a changeover from tracksuits in-field to business suits in the corporate sector. Because also, I have to commend the corporate sector for really stepping up. And Safaricom, EABL, and other corporate entities have really stepped up support to the sports sector, and that's amazing. But we need to all rally together, the media included.
Okay, so how does this support play out? Because I'm really, really interested. I mean, we've spoken to sportsmen and women across board, looking at performance, and we've heard the things that the actual sportsman and woman complain about. In as much as the support can be there, you're going to have a business meeting. Now we're talking about your performance in a sporting activity. Has a lot to do with how you train, has a lot to do with how you're conditioned. And obviously this training doesn't start 2 weeks before the Olympics, for example. People are starting to train now. People started to train before the just concluded Olympics for Paris 2024.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're looking at a long conditioned process in order to have valuable results. We're looking at the science of things. We're looking at actual sports management. For example, the AfroBasket Championships taking place this coming next month
in September
in Cameroon, right? We had a lady here who sat and told us they know for a fact that 2 weeks before is when things will be riled up, and they said, okay, guys, go for a training camp for 14 days. Here are your tickets, go. But what is happening in the actual support and management, conditioning and training of athletes, applying the science of sport to how then athletes are able to then perform? I think that's what the athletes are really complaining about today.
Yeah.
that somebody who is working for Kenya prisons, for example, and then plays volleyball is training for 2 hours in a day because they have a day job? How are we able to professionalize sport in Kenya and say that this can actually be your career and the government is going to support you in addition to any kind of corporate support? These are the issues that athletes, not media, not corporate, the ones who are performing and contributing to this name are complaining about today.
Yeah, actually, it's not just a Kenyan issue. I mean, you saw at the Olympics, Italy take over disciplines that were dominated by the US and Jamaica.
Yeah, Norway taking
that,
from Kenya.
And that was because of training, incorporating technology in the training regime. In my experience, the sports ecosystem is actually one of the most sophisticated, and I mean complex, that you can actually appreciate, because you have you have government playing a major support role with facilities and all that, and then you have management companies, agencies, federations also coming in to sort of all work around an athlete. And so the organization of that ecosystem to make sure that the athlete actually has what they require to train has been a conversation that has been ongoing for 2 years, and I think we've seen some tremendous improvement in that field from a situation where athletes were looked for 2 weeks to an event. You're seeing a camps in place for a year. For a year, 6 months, the Commonwealth team, or the team that Kenya is expected to take to the Commonwealth Games, is already being identified and will be in camp, I think, as soon as next week. So you're seeing a very concerted effort. And this is as a result of coordinating the entire ecosystem.
But is the effort adequate in terms of preparation? All the effort that is being made, it's commendable.
Yeah.
And the results show it clearly. And you've explained it well.
Yeah.
But is it adequate?
And what needs to happen?
No,
Respond to this after this break. Let's take a break.
Okay.
At 27 minutes to 8 o'clock, Kenya's biggest conversation. We have in studio Rose Washuka. She is, until recently, she was the Chief of Staff in the Cabinet Secretary's office at the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage. She'll tell us where she is now. But she's talking about what she's doing with a passion and what she loves, the sports as a passion. So she's telling us what has been happening in terms of, organizing our sports. Our conversation is, how can we maximize the potential of Kenya's sporting talent? What needs to happen? That's what we are asking ourselves this morning. Let's take this break, take a look at the weather and traffic, and then the conversation continues. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 2 hash to read the Nairobian e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date, the hottest talk of town, with no additional charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Slightly sunny conditions in Nairobi at 14, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 23 in Nyeri, cloudy at 13, 14 and cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 23, 22 will be the high in Eldoret, partly sunny at 11, 29 will be the high in Kisumu, partly sunny at 19, 19 degrees and partly sunny in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 15. We'll see highs of 29 in a cloudy Mombasa this morning, currently at 24. Continues to rain in Malindi at 25, highs of 29, 26 will be the high in a mostly sunny Kampala at 20, partly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 22 with highs of 30. 5, temperatures dropping in Johannesburg, highs of 23 coming down to lows of 5. It's raining in Lagos at 25, highs of 29, and mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
All right, that traffic on the Thika Superhighway inching closer and closer, or rather farther and farther away, and now it's going towards Survey, headed out then towards that Mathare area, and you get to that corner at Muthui Square and the Pangani underpass, and it's an absolute mess this morning, moving very, very slowly, bumper to bumper in some parts, so we're going to have to look out for that. Outbound traffic also on Thika Road is also piling up, and we're also seeing traffic on Limuru Road not looking pretty at all, folks. A very, very sticky situation. Langata Road also bumper to bumper, all jam and no butter today. Doesn't look good here. Mombasa Road also picking up right around the SGR. Ugh, it's a mess today. And Jogo Road as well, as you're trying to get into the city. Landis Road has also picked up. The Kamkunji roundabout doesn't look good at all. So those who left at 6 o'clock are where they were going. Those who did not are here. Okay, guys, the bypass is not looking too bad either. Use those this morning and talk to us if you do get stuck anywhere. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right here in the Situation Room with Eric Latif, Nduoko, C.T. Muga, and Rose Washuka, who was until recently the Chief of Staff in the Office of the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Sports, Culture and Heritage. Speaking to somebody who's been in the engine room, in the kitchen, and we're getting to know, all right, so there's been a lot of work that's happened, and there have been some gains that have taken place. Like you said, we've taken the largest and widest ever team contingent to the Olympics in Kenya's history because of work that had taken place. We are preparing ourselves for the Commonwealth Games because we are working towards something. City asked before we took the break, all these efforts that are taking place, are they enough? Do you feel like we're doing the best that we could?
I think that a lot is being done. Yeah, but I do think that we need to see a lot more players involved. For instance, I know that there is a very sophisticated program at Moi University and Strathmore University, which are the two universities that actually are focused on sports, and Kenyatta University as well. And so if you look at countries like Italy, the academia in those countries has actually played a significant role in infusing science into sports. And we are seeing a growth of sports professors, Professor Ochieng, Gerard Luande, people that I worked with and who, are in the business of sports science. So that collaboration with institutions of higher learning is quite important. And you just saw the 2018 Tartan Legacy put up at Kenyatta University, which was going to be the Athletes Village to just support the development of sports programs in institutions of higher learning. Because science, and the discovery of science takes place in labs, and the sports ministry doesn't have them. These labs are in institutions of higher learning, but also we are seeing growth of sports medicine and sports doctors. I can tell you we have some of the best sports doctors in the country, young professionals who actually are specialized in sports surgery, but also, mental well-being of athletes. And we're working with all of them, people who are working behind the scenes to ensure that our athletes are mentally well and that their injuries are addressed quickly. And also that we have some, the most robust resumption to sports medical protocols that are being applied across the African continent. So I do think that everybody is pulling their beat. I would like to see more engagement with the private sector in terms of purchasing technology, in terms of supporting innovation in this field. There's been significant government investment in terms of ensuring that the facilities are coming up properly. We also need to, move coaching to the next level. And this takes concerted effort. And I do think that everyone is pulling together and we are seeing the steady growth. And now the mantra is actually that the athlete is at the center of operations, no longer peripheral. And so because the athlete is at the center of operations, we are seeing a lot of programs being managed around the athlete. Now, I know that there still remains, areas, requiring significant improvement. But I do know that just like you saw in the marathon, it's never a sprint in the beginning.
Sure.
It's a steady pace to the end.
Who should take up the initial mantle? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that question. I look at a country like Rwanda, for example, and I look at the things that government institutions have actually started in terms of what they've been able to do, whether it is the introduction of stadia. So they form the blueprint, and then these stakeholders that you're talking about come and they fill in the structure. We have the NBA, for example, and where was their first port of call for NBA Loves Africa? It was Kigali, because they've seen, okay, hold on, where can we actually come in and look at training camps and things like that for young players? And they've seen that, okay, the structure has already been set up there, and they go with it. We are looking at sporting facilities and training clubs for children as young as 3-4 years old that are currently taking place. So who starts it? Whether by being skeletal completely and saying, let's just form a structure. People will then come in and start to fill. I know examples of people, for example, who work in the corporate sector, who played basketball, for example, under the guidelines of KBF. And I've tried to come back later on when they're working in the corporate sector and say, how can we help? But they're edged out by the petty politics that lives in federations like this today. And it's a very real issue. So how do you separate those matters and say, let's even start to build the infrastructure and then let these people, professionals in their own rights, come and fill in? But then what do we have is a mishmash of these little petty, unimportant politics.
And I think that the situation is different in different sports in different countries. I mean, I give it up for Rwanda in terms of basketball. But consider Kenya being the only country on the African continent to have hosted a global championship of this nature twice. That says something. World athletics doesn't...
Twice in 5 years.
World athletics doesn't just happen upon a country. It means that we have the facilities to manage an athletics event, that we have the capacity in terms of local organizing committee and leadership to actually drive this process. Her Excellency, the First Lady, has been patron twice, and that speaks to commitment at the highest government level. And what I'm driving at is that there are things that we're doing and doing very well. If we are going to talk about Rwanda and basketball, let's talk about Kenya and athletics and Kenya and motorsports. Yeah, you're seeing Kenya put up the biggest service park in the entire WRC circuit, not just on the African continent, but in the world. And having WRC commit to coming to Kenya for the next 6 years. That speaks to leadership. And I think government has actually led in that way. Do we want to see that expand to other disciplines? Absolutely.
And I'm saying, because of that, you see an example, that's the thing, Rose, that you can see it has happened. So why then are we not able to see this happening in other sports? We have athletes who are telling us today that their training, for example, depends on them solely. The things that they have to do in order to compete on that level.
And I think athletes will also tell you. Athletes will also tell you that, as with any professional, a bit of the work actually rests on every one of us, right? A bit of it, and then also a lot of work depends upon the federation. And as I've said, the sporting ecosystem is so complex because you have, the international federation working collaboratively with the national federation working with government, being managed by international sporting laws, and then local national sporting laws. And we are seeing this with the cricket case. The government had to come in, form a normalization committee, but not without consulting the International Cricket Committee, the ICC, because of that international legal sporting ecosystem. And so my experience has shown that the entire system has to move together. It has to be a solo operation. And I think His Excellency the President dealt with the chronic funding issue by setting up the Social Development Fund, the Sports Fund. And that has become less and less of a problem. The next frontier now is to see how do we professionalize federations in a manner that actually catapults sports management, because the federation is actually the first point of contact with an athlete.
With every athlete. And I think that's where the conversation needs to happen. What is it that we need to do to see those federations doing what they ought to do? And because we see, like, it's a sine wave. We have good leadership in a federation, let's say hockey or cricket or volleyball, you see good performance. And then because of that good performance, it attracts everybody else to come in. The other people who come in with nefarious intentions, they come and they elbow out the good intentioned people who do not really want to fight. So they take over and it goes down.
If we
what's the role of government in normalizing this sine wave?
I mean, I think government has made sure that funding is available, that space is available for federations to manage the business, that the doors are open for consultation, right? And that the policies are actually in place. You know, the anti-doping policies, the sports facilities policies, the sports academies policies. And I can tell you that we saw a very healthy interaction between federations and government in the past 2 years that I served at the ministry. A very diplomatic approach, of course, led by one of the best diplomat in the country, which is what really was the missing ingredient, right? That was the missing ingredient, to have federations and government in the same room agreeing to put all interests aside and center the athlete, or put the athlete at the center of operations. And that's how actually we've been able to manage these events quite seamlessly.
You know, one of the things that we often, this one I'm using the word deliberately, complain about, is how it is the government misses out on putting out and across an effective communication about what they do, not just in sports. In almost everything the government does, you bring in a government official, someone who knows, and you're wondering.
You know, Jeffrey Sachs. I'm going to go economics a bit on you. Jeffrey Sachs talks about something called manufacturing consent. There's a lot of manufactured consent in the media. Let's be honest. I like to be straight. And so how much are you paying for visibility? And it's not government paying. It's the Kenyan people. So let's have an honest conversation about how serious are we about telling the Kenyan story? Because if we're serious about telling the Kenyan story, we would not talk about government struggling to communicate.
Actually,
it should be everybody's initiative and prerogative to question, and that's happening, and I like it, but also to recognize when good has been done and to illuminate it.
Rose,
that is what the Rwandese do.
Let me ask the question.
That is what the Italians have done, and that is what a lot of other nations.
What you're doing now is what we would have preferred was done more often.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, I do not know of efforts that the government has made outside a forum such as this one to communicate these very same things, not just in sports, as I was saying, but in everything else. Like the issue of the park for the WRC. Believe me, if you travel around the country, you are shocked at the things that the government is actually doing. And with the exception of maybe a clip or somebody. So the question I'm asking is that effort really made? Let me take this thing a step further. You see, where I'm going with this is on one simple rule. If I look at how other countries manage their sports, they have a policy, you mentioned policy. They have academies, you mentioned academy. But it's almost from the time you're born, they're working at this thing. You are in nursery school, you are in primary school, you are in secondary school. By the time you're getting to under 15, God, they already know the path that you're charting. Under 17, they've got it. Under 20. Now, we keep hearing under 20, under 17, under 18. But what are these policies and what are these plans and what are the actualizations of these things that the government has done with regards to sports? So that when you talk of sports, there's a clear path of continuity. I know it exists, but is it spoken of loudly and clearly?
I mean, allow me to bring in the CBC, which I worked on quite a bit when I was the Chief of Staff at the Ministry of Education. One of the pathways in the CBC is actually the sports pathway. But we also have to recognize that we are in the nascent stages of implementing this curriculum. And there's been fusion between sports, education, and other disciplines across government. But also we have to also ask ourselves, what kind of dreams do we have for our children? Because the pathways exist. The pathways exist. But as parents, as guardians, as elder brothers and sisters, are we paying attention? Do we think that there is a viable pathway in sports, or are we still, scrambling for university places, as you saw the other day?
For the sciences.
What is going on here? It is a national conversation. It ought to be a national conversation.
Indeed, it has to be. And you know who leads it? Government.
And government has been.
There's a role that government needs to play in also changing our mindsets by showing us those opportunities. All right. So, for instance, and I think this is a conversation we've also had here, in school, sports is considered extracurricular. Okay.
Not
so
core.
yes, CBC.
No, it is actually a core strand.
CBC
If you understand
is now
CBC.
is now bringing it as core curricula, but
It is not core curricula. It is a core pathway.
In education.
Yes.
What role is the Ministry of Sports playing in that, at that level, in terms of collaboration with the Ministry of Education, so that you are understanding that you're nurturing sports personalities from that point at school, not just education ministry just churning out people who are good at this, but also sports ministry understanding that this is our source.
Yeah, but that has been the case, Eric. I mean, if you look at St. Patrick's E10 and the kind of athletes it produces, did you know that David Rudisha and Emmanuel Korir went to the same high school?
Yes.
You will find...
And many, many other athletes go to these schools that actually take sports seriously and identify. Also, if you think about schools like Nairobi School with rugby and other schools, so the schools is actually where this talent is really, really
you were saying that
discovered and nurtured.
You're saying the Ministry of Sports has played a role in that?
No, I'm saying that there's been direct collaboration between the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Sports. And it's actually active conversations and a policy that is about to be actualized to actually devolve the sports, the Kenya Academy of Sports, to academies in the form of schools, to create centers of excellence in schools for different things. So, for instance, can we make Nairobi School the center of excellence for rugby? Can we make St. Patrick's E10 the center of excellence for athletics? And we are and I mean, the government has laid out the policy, and I think it's at the tail end of actualization, and we should start seeing how this then plays out. So that the headquarters of the Kenya Academy of Sports is at Kasarani, but the nodes in the constituencies are in different schools, and we're using school infrastructure and developing that infrastructure just the way we have developed, or the Ministry of Sports has invested over 2 billion shillings into Kenyatta University in the past 5 years.
Rose, we're not doubting these efforts. Neither are we taking an opportunity on our birthday to bash the government. What we're saying is some of these sports that you speak of, they have risen and they have proliferated because of individual interests. If you talk about athletics in 10, you'll find that there was an individual who was keen on building students. If you look at rugby and its proliferation across the country, you'll find it's people who graduated from Kenyatta College as
but
teachers who went out.
That's just one component, because minus the funding, we wouldn't see international exposure.
It's the key component, because before the funding came in, they were playing rugby. There were competitions. Before rugby was in Nairobi, full stop.
Yeah.
Then it went all over the country. That was spread by these people who were teachers who went all over the country. So by the time it now got on to where we were now 7th champions, already we had a pool. But it began in that way until it became a national. Now, where the government comes in, it became part of the national sports for schools.
Yeah, but there's something very interesting about Kenyans, actually, that we tend to excel very quickly at anything we attempt. And I'm not saying this lightly, because we've seen the introduction of Tongil Modo. We are now rated second in the world after Korea. We've seen the rise of rollball. We are now rated second in the world as well. We have a Winter Olympian who is actually doing pretty well. And so there's a lot to be said about talent, general talent in our country. And I do agree with you that we actually need to understand that, our young men and women are exceptionally gifted. And then to recognize that gift at the national level, at the home level, at the community level, at the national level, and come together to nurture, because one node will not succeed without the other. Government cannot succeed without the buy-in of parents and guardians. Parents and guardians will not succeed without the buy-in of communities. So that we start to tell our young men and women, look, there is a livelihood to be made, not in tenders, but in sports.
Mm-hmm. Have we heard that clarion call? And I think that may be the issue. That have we heard it come out? Because I don't think that it's, for something like this, we can't couch it in suggestion. It has to be clear. If we're looking at government saying that we realize the importance that this can play in terms of the lives of young people, older people, professionals, the country as a whole, I think it cannot be a suggestion or a maybe. Yeah. It has to be clear coming from government. We have seen the importance of this. And really, as basic and as rudimentary as it sounds, to say we are calling on everybody in every concerned party to come together, because this is over the next how many ever years, 5-year tranches over the next 60 years, this is what we plan to do. And we're asking everybody to come in. Unless that is done clearly, people are going to continue doing their own pockets. Somebody who played rugby in Nairobi school, goes on to university, goes on to professional, is going to call his friends and say, let's see what we can do for the sport on a personal point of view. But if we see, again, that there's that structure, it doesn't have to be a physical building that we're talking about. But if there's a structure that has been set and say, this is our plan, I'm telling you, the way you said that people will pick up on it once they know that the backbone support is there, or even the initiative. Mm-hmm. Even the initiative, if it is there, I'm sure that people will plug in. But if it's just people just saying, okay, yes, we expect,
it will not.
It will not happen. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that yes, there needs to be that clarion call, but it has to be broader. The ownership has to be beyond just government. The ownership actually has to be with with all of us, really.
It has to be the community.
Yeah, so that when I speak to young people, I'm telling them, look, I know that there are pathways. There's a pathway in the sports sector that can actually make sure that you have a very comfortable life, and then. We all rally together, and there's a role for everyone to play.
Yes.
And I think as soon as we recognize there's a role for everyone to play, as soon as we dissuade our young people on social media to stop bashing our athletes and demotivating them just because they don't think they're doing well, when all the countries and everyone is actually struggling, when we start to really be positive, to encourage, to support our ambassadors, when all of us, when all our skins are in the game, then we will start to see a shift.
Yes.
But one end,
so
one
example,
and government has
if we have more than one sports person holding an EGH, and not just one, because this one we have all campaigned for. But if you have somebody like David Rudisha, for example, being an EGH, then it shows that even the government is recognizing them. Thank
Absolutely.
You, Ruth, for coming.
I mean, yeah. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Thank you for
having me.
Come back again. Let's still continue talking about this, because
yes,
you have your passion in the right position.
Very
passionate.
Rose should come here as a guest host. You know why?
Yes, because we have a lot to talk about.
Yes, there are so many nuances to this discussion.
Very
that an
many.
hour cannot cover.
Good morning, everybody.
Absolutely.
It's now 8 a.m. Time for the news.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. 7 judges of the Court of Appeal will today give their judgment on the constitutional implementation through the BBI process. Kenyans are eagerly waiting for the judgment that will in a big way determine the course of action from the politicians and Kenyans as well as we approach the 2022 general election. This as ODM leader Raila Odinga, who is a major proponent of BBI, said that whatever the outcome, he will not go to the Supreme Court for redress.
Alafu sasa siku ya Ijumaa tutangoja mahakama iongee. Sawa. Wakiongea vizuri, sawa. Wakiongea vibaya, vile sawa. Sawa. Lakini mwenendo yetu itaendelea. Sawa. Tunaendelea vizuri. Maana yake unasema nobody can.
These as Kenyans continue to express themselves on the judgment from the appellate court. Today, the country is eagerly waiting to see what verdict the court will give, with Kenyans expressing themselves. Let's listen in.
Kwa sababu ni project ya government, BBI sioni kama kuna vile koti watazuia atisipite. BBI itaendelea na hao watu warege wataendelea kuvuja pesa za mwananchi. Kwangu mimi ningetaka sana hiyo BBI isiendelee kwa sababu inatupotezea muda, na pia hivyo maendeleo ya Kenya imesimama kwa sababu watu wote wameconcentrate kwa hiyo BBI.
Mimi natumainia kama Mkenya hiyo rege isimame ili maendeleo mengine ipate kufanyika. Kwa ajili tumemaliza karibu miaka 4 ya kufanya kazi ya rege.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's recent meeting with One Kenya Alliance leaders and ODM party leader Raila Odinga has left a section of Mount Kenya leaders asking questions as to where they sit in government. In a meeting at Deputy President William Ruto's residence in Karen, Mathira MP Rigathi Gachagua, Kandara MP Alice Wahome and nominated MP Cecily Mbarire criticized the meeting, saying that the head of state has continued to neglect his deputy, who helped him in a big way form the government.
Walikuwa wanapanga usiku na mchana vile hata tawala Kenya hii. Akasaidiwa na huyu William Ruto na nyinyi na sisi. Wale walikuwa wanapanga vile hata tawala mwenyewe amewaita awapangie vile watasimamisha huyu.
Ukiangalia tangu hiyo salamu tumeona aliwekwa kando. Hakuwekwa kando peke yake.
Ati leo hii hatuwezi keti kwa meza tumeitwa na mheshimiwa rais kama watoto wake wa Jubilee, lakini anakumbuka wengine.
The 7th Devolution Conference will not proceed between the 23rd to 26th of this month as earlier planned due to COVID-19 restrictions that banned all gatherings. Despite the cancellation of the conference, head teacher Makueni Boys High School says they have benefited from the exercise after facilities were improved in readiness for the event. However, those that had been contracted to offer various services are a sad lot due to the losses they'll incur. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so this is it. When it gets absolutely jam-packed all around the city, we're looking at traffic in every direction. Coming off Mombasa Road, coming off of the Thika Superhighway, in and outbound, interestingly enough, in and out of the city centre, all the way from the Huru Highway at the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. The Aerodrome Road is giving, a bit of an option, but that also is jam-packed. We're looking at traffic coming off Jogo Road, entering into the city centre via Landis Road. The Kamkunji roundabout is an eyesore this morning. So how can you avoid the city centre? Go out in order to come in. At least you won't be in there for too long. The Southern Bypass looking good. The Eastern Bypass as well, not too bad. Northern Bypass using outer ring to get there is also giving off a good vibe this morning. Thika Road is not, however. Neither is Langata Road. So those are the trouble spots you should watch out for this morning. If you're there, some patience. If you're not, do not. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's 5
the
minutes
only way to
after
start
8.
your day.
Good morning. How are you doing? Kenya's biggest conversation into the third hour. We live stream the show every morning on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We are also live on SpiceFM across the country. Nairobi 94.4, Mombasa 87.9, Kisumu 102.5, 96.0, Nakuru, Eldoret 96.7, Nyeri is 90.9, and Malindi is 97.7. For the next 2 hours, for the next 1 hour, we're also live on KTN Home. We are celebrating our second anniversary today. On this day 2 years ago, the Situation Room went live, and Spice FM also went live with programming. And today we're very happy, as you can see.
And we know it.
We're very happy.
Clapping our hands.
We're very, very happy. We're very happy. City, today's proverb.
Right.
Switch off the lights.
Okay, that is the shortened version of it. Now let me read the long version of it, or the full context of it. When a soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. You do not blame the ones who committed the sins, but the ones who created the darkness.
Love that.
See?
When there's darkness, sins will be committed. Do not go after the sinner. Look for the person who switched off the light. It's a very good excuse by the sinners.
Right.
Usinilaumu, sinigiza.
Switched off the lights.
Eric,
sinigiza.
we gave examples of electioneering and vote counting. What about the kumi drinks? These illicit, the fuel that people send masquerading as alcoholic beverage. People have gone blind. Now those ones were in complete and total darkness.
The brewers are the ones who switched off the lights.
Yes, exactly. So
they're the ones to be blamed, not the drinker of the brew.
Not the drinker of the brew. Today is also the day when the Court of Appeal judges will be delivering their verdict on BBI. So, of course, the whole conversation today is going to touch on BBI here, BBI there, but also what's happening in the country. We will be looking at it from the satirical point of and side of things, because we are joined now in this mud studio by a madman, the Mado himself, Paul Kelemba, a cartoonist. Karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Asante.
It's good to have you.
Not madman. I always insist that my name Mad has got a double D.
Yes.
And there's quite a big difference between mad
and mad.
And mad.
Yeah. So I said the madman.
Yeah, if you can figure it out.
And Paul, how exactly would you characterize what you do? People call you a caricaturist, a cartoonist. What would you call it?
Okay, let me put it this way. Yeah?
Yes, contextualize it for us.
Yes. A scientist, it doesn't work for you.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing because there's a science to what you do.
I know.
Yes.
Right. You know,
philosopher.
Yes.
A long time ago when I was applying for my passport, and in that field of occupation, I was like, okay, now
what do I write?
Cartoonist. I was actually going to write cartoonist. Then decided, no, hang on a second. Journalist.
Yes.
So that's what I am. I'm a journalist. But I'm a social commentator. I'm a satirist, a humorist. I look at what you see yourself and put it in a slightly different way.
You an illustrative editor.
Call me that too. Not bad, yeah?
So it's a nice long one. Rolls off is nicely. Illustrative editor. Write that next time you're applying for government, in any government document. Occupation, illustrative editor.
We've been waiting for that kind of call.
So I mean, I think a lot of us, grew up reading comics, and it was just for the funny side of it. And then we started seeing the evolution of comics and cartoons being used to pass on messages of a political nature, of a social nature, justice, and kind of thing. When did you start using an obvious skill that you have to start to pass the messages? Because for the naked eye, it would be okay, a picture of one person saying something, but there's always the underlying message that you can find in things like poetry, that you can find in drama and books and things like that. When did you realize that you could use this gift to start to change thinking?
Actually, early enough. Obviously now, much later on, somewhere in my late teenage life, that's when I realized, hey, look, I can communicate using the skills that I've got. But I've always grasped knowledge and information, and always had that urge to pass it on to somebody, even if it's my opinion or repackaged and so on. To me, knowledge is indispensable. It's something that one must seek, pursue, grasp. And we're all different, of course, on Earth. So there are those who will consume that information or knowledge and stay with it or pass it on using other avenues. A parent will pass their knowledge to their offspring and so on, a teacher to students. Let's not talk about politicians.
To the citizens.
Oh, yes, yeah. And then there are people like in our profession where you capture that information outside there, pack it very well for putting it out there. Yeah.
What are some of the major things then you've been able to cover? I mean, over the years, what are some of the things that you see stuck out to you and that really picked up when you put it out there in form of a caricature?
Yeah, there's lots. The world is a large stage with so much happening. So there's plenty for somebody like me to pick and publish. There's obviously politics, there's culture, there's social life, there's the economy, there's and science. Charles, yeah?
Science.
Yeah, there's all that. Now, to be able to capture that, like you guys, I mean, your conversations are diverse with different individuals, and you're able to grasp that. So there are people who specialize. Let's say an accountant just decides, okay, what I'm going to do is figures throughout, yeah? And almost nothing else. But now, in the life of a journalist or a cartoonist such as myself, I should be able to look at the vast field of events, world events, what is occurring outside there, take note of that, and actually form an opinion of what's going on, whether it's political, social, or culture and the arts, which is also a love of mine. Yeah.
I think the one thing that you also get in what you do is you have the freedom to editorialize what you want to say. Your opinion is what you are putting out there. So, for example, if you're looking at a BBI and you want to project your opinion on it, you'll be the one who puts it out there. You know, it'll be a caricature, it'll be funny, it'll be showing, maybe a judge running, or, the president doing this, or Raila doing the other. But you'll basically be expressing your opinion, not necessarily just looking at it from this is what's happening, so I'm just posting it there. So you are taking an editorial position, and that's why maybe they're even called editorial cartoons, because you are saying this is a position, this is how we see things.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, that's a good opportunity for me to explain, maybe to our listeners. Yes, I do have a free hand, and I'm actually thankfully so to my editors over the years. But however, there are limits. There are limits. The newspaper, the publication itself, has got an editorial policy, which obviously I cannot go around. But yes, I do carry my opinions. In fact, there should always be a writer there that opinions expressed here by this cartoonist belong to this cartoonist, and it's not the newspapers, whatever. Yeah. But let's say if we're in other countries such as the United States, where publication overtly or openly has a bias towards a political party, then in that kind of establishment, I will not be able to, let's say, criticize the party that media house kind of supports. Yeah. Now, okay, things are obviously a little different here. But one thing that, again, I reiterate is that this media house has given us, opinion writers and so on, quite a nice landscape, to maneuver in and do this and that and whatever. Obviously, there's always one or two people who are who are kind of not really untouchable in today's world, but sometimes you have to tread carefully, let's say. And that's what I'm saying. There is an editorial policy. So if this newspaper, for example, does not publish pictures of nudes, of dead bodies, splashed over the road after an accident or something like that, then obviously I won't. Yeah, it may work. But obviously I'm going to carry out, I'm going to draw so much about it and comment so much about that. My column is what I call a composite cartoon feature, just slightly different from a editorial cartoon, because an editorial cartoon is some kind of one-off.
Yeah.
In that frame of 4 columns by whatever, that cartoonist should be able to say what they want to say, and then that's it. Mad World is just slightly different, because I can always draw something, then write something and say, okay, I don't really mean that. That kind of thing. I can attempt to explain myself. Whereas the editorial cartoon is actually in a straitjacket of some sort. Once they have depicted a situation in that small little box, then that's it.
Sure.
Yeah, they cannot have any further comment. Yeah.
But the old adage that a picture tells 1,000, says 1,000 words or something like that, as it goes. And I think about famous. So the question is, how far then can these pictures that you make, these cartoons, influence public thinking and opinion? And I'm asking that question in relation to what we saw in 2015 with the attacks that happened on Charlie Hebdo in Paris, whereby there was a cartoon done by this satirical publication that then brought about a global situation because they were attacked by, one faction. And there was one message that was out very clear, and it affected an entire population of people and still probably rings today. How far then? Because it's not when you draw a picture that is laced with an opinion, and there are people who see that picture, they then form a mindset. It doesn't matter what your initial opinion was. They think a certain thing because of this picture that they have seen, and then begin to form thinking around that. How it must be more than just your opinion, Mado. It oftentimes becomes thinking that has been formed in the minds of anybody who sees that picture.
Yeah, that's right. I would like to believe that we do carry some influence. Politicians don't believe that. In fact, the last category of human beings who still look at us as pests, But everybody else, over the years, things have changed so much that we are held in high regard. Our opinions, what we have to offer to the public. That's why the more reason why we have to be very careful in our content. Yeah, we just won't go out, let's say, for example, we are sensitive about minorities, special needs groups, the physically challenged, some religious groups, and so on. Now, we worked with a couple of the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists in Nairobi. Yeah, 2 of them came here. One of them died in that attack. Now, obviously, that attack was brought about by the influence of what they were carrying in that publication.
Yep.
Oh, yes, yeah. It was such that a group of people actually transferred across the European continent, went and staked out until they got the opportunity to burst into the offices and carry out the attack. Meaning that these are people who are trying to stop the influence that these cartoonists were offering. Obviously, we will not really want to go into that right now. We had a debate about that some time ago in some other media house. What they were doing is something that rocked somebody's boat. But they thought they were okay.
Well, let me ask this question. You see, there's a thin line here that must be considered, not necessarily drawn, but considered. Where does responsible journalism begin and where does it end?
Yeah, there's a very thin line. It's razor thin, as it is. And that's why we've got editors. If everything that was collected was published, you'd have a publication full of nonsense. Oh yes, yeah. And this is exactly what's happening when social media was let loose, because now Zuckerberg cannot be editor in chief of, I don't know, is it 2 billion reporters? Yeah, it's virtually impossible. So editors are there to not to gatekeep, but to to make sure that what goes out for public consumption is what needs to be, but is packaged in a way that we filtered out all the nonsense that we are talking about and so on. However, a couple of things do get through. And we've seen this, whether it's on radio, television, or print. It does go through. Apologies have been made. Lawsuits have been...
All exactly extracted.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yes. And whereas probably half of it might be that maybe it's just this rich guy or this politician complaining about, because they've got the might to go to court and so on and drag this poor media house there. There are these reporters who actually also put in stories that are really kind of half-baked and so on, and probably for maybe financial gain somewhere. So that is there, and we have to always be on the lookout for that. And it goes to the individual journalist that one has to be highly responsible.
Paul, you mentioned something about perhaps treading gently on certain issues. But again, the line, the proverbial line that should or should not be crossed comes into discussion. How do you tread gently and not compromise on the truth?
Yeah, okay, that's pretty interesting. Treading carefully, as we've said, does not really mean you're ignoring facts that are on the ground, that's happening, that need to be broadcast, that need to be known. To me, it's really the way you tackle it. Yeah. So say, for example, let's say, okay, let me dare say this. Let's say there's an untouchable politician somewhere. Yeah. Okay, but it's not like what it was in the past. Things are different.
You know, I'm going to ask you at some point the qualities of the untouchable. But but for now, let's go with the story. Yes.
Not that they are there all over the place these days. But let's say there is one, and for some reason, one's editors think that we should not really go so much in that direction. We have to look for another way. Because if you ignore that individual and what that individual stands for, then you're doing a disservice to your audience,
yes,
a very large one. So you need to pursue it. And there are very, very many ways. And thankfully so, cartoonists actually find it a lot more easier than if you are writing or, doing an op-ed on television.
That's very true. You get a lot of some free hand and that other journalists in the newsroom will not be able to get. We have to accept. Paul Kelemba, also known as Mado, the one of the mad world, editorial cartoonist. What did you call yourself again? What scientist again? CT? Illustrative editor. And very many other things that Paul Kelemba is our guest host for the next 2 hours in the show. We are talking, first of all, we want to understand the work and his trade and what he does, and then we looking at everything else that's happening in the country and in the world. This conversation takes a break at 24 minutes after 8. We are live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. If you'd like to get any of the highlights of any of our shows every weekday morning, you can get them on our social media, SpiceFM KE on Twitter, on Facebook or Instagram, or also you can get them on your mobile phone. Just text the words TSR to 22850. That's TSR to 22850. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are
a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
Stacey, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, say, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Has you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
The weather
Cloudy
with
at 16 in
Spice
Nairobi,
FM.
highs of 23, lows of 15 today. Cloudy conditions at 14 in Nyeri with highs of 23. 23 will also be the high in a cloudy Nakuru, 22 in Eldoret where it's partly sunny at 13. 29 degrees and partly sunny at 21 in Kisumu. At 20 degrees, Kakamega is partly sunny, highs of 28 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 23 in a rainy Mombasa this morning, going to highs of 30, and 29 will be the high in Malindi. It's also raining at 26, so come down to lows of 25. 18 will be the low in Kampala. It's mostly sunny at 20 with highs of 26, and partly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24 with highs of 30 and lows of 23. At 7 degrees, Johannesburg is warming up slightly. Highs of 23 today. Light rain at 25 in Lagos with highs of 29. And we'll see highs of 30 in Kinshasa. Mostly cloudy at the moment at 22, which will be the low for the day.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
Continues in most areas today. We're looking at that Kamkunji roundabout, especially getting into the city centre, and it doesn't look pretty at all. Slowing down, rather picking up a little bit on the Thika Superhighway. But that Muthui stretch doesn't look very good. It's not too smooth. Getting out then towards the Pangani underpass and then out towards the Globe Cinema overpass, still off Thika Road nearer to Moy Avenue. Okay, so also looking at traffic coming out of the A104 in Westlands, and everything connecting with that. University Way, Slip Road, University roundabout, that is quite packed. And we're also looking at some activity within the CBD. We're going to keep an eye on things this morning. Outbound on Waiaki Way also is slowing down. That 104 situation because of construction and other things affecting traffic. Mombasa Road still continues to be a story, guys. I am sorry on the behalf of everybody who needs to be sorry right now. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch. Text on 40127. Let's keep things moving this Friday.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Coming up to 8:30, Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, and in the room is Siti Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif, and for the next 2 hours, it's Paul Kalemba, Mado, talking about his work. Many years you've been in this trade, and like you're saying, untouchables, or even some conversations that you tread carefully, some conversations that you are also not even expected to even emerging that you could go into. Tell us about some of those. In fact, let's start with this first one. The first time that you touched the ultimate untouchable in this country, and you portrayed him, was it on a tractor? And that's the former president.
No, he was running on a truck.
He was running on a truck.
Close.
Yeah, the first time that you actually did the cartoon that portrayed the president. What was going through your mind? What kind of conversations were you having with the editors?
You know, at that time, the president was untouchable. And that was pretty obvious. But we cartoonists were really battling, to try to get our editors to accept us caricaturing the president. But it was an absolute no-no. I've worked under several very fine editors, George Mbogus, Joe Kadhi, Mick Odero, Mitch. Thank you, Charles. Mitch Odero, The whole bunch. But there was one called Ali Hafid. Ali Hafid was, pretty nasty, let me say. you cannot speak ill of the dead. Yeah, so there we go. What he used to do at that time, we were pretty analog. So I used to draw my stuff on one large piece of paper, ink and everything. Then he insisted that it had to go through him as editor-in-chief. So yes, he did. And when he didn't like anything, he actually just put a big red X in it.
And it was just that one copy.
It was, yes, just that, the original. it was terrible. But I think I still have those copies. Anyway, well, we were battling to try and do the big man, as he was called at the time. So I started creeping in, kind of bringing him in, to beat the editor. So I brought in Mzee Moi at the time by giving him a kofia, a hat, and just having a darkened face. Yes, on a tractor that time, here and there. Around that time, since I was on contract with the Standard, I was allowed to contribute to a weekly. And at that time, the weekly was Society magazine. So I used to do the covers. For the editor, Pius Nyamora at that time, who was pretty, he had plenty of guts, as it is. So he asked me one day, him and Mwenda Njoka, who was there with him, can you do Moi? I said, wow, okay. I asked them, are you guys joking? I've been itching to do this. So they told me, let's go ahead. So, well, I did Moi. And that's the one that I depicted him running in the stadium, in the inside of the trucks, and everybody else, Kibaki at that time, Oginga Odinga at the time, had all obstacles all over the place. Yeah, so in that time, the push was he was using the government and the ruling party, to create obstacles and so on, and the media there was government control at the time. It went through, and that morning, Society used to come out on Monday morning. That morning, Nyamora didn't come to work.
Oh, no.
Yes. He had been petrol bombed before. So he was expecting that kind of reaction. So he didn't show up. And incredibly, Special Branch, who used to collect copies of publications they didn't like Finance and Weekly Review once in a while, they actually let it go. It was sold. It sold out. Nyamora almost thought that the Special Branch had collected, but the publication had been sold out. Now, so we got away with that. It's only later on that we found out that Moi himself was not really overly hostile to
the idea of
cartoons. It's what you did with him. Oh, yes, yeah. And again, you see now, when you've got all these lieutenants of yours around you, they are the ones who will now call the editors, no, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't whatever, you shouldn't have carried that, and so don't do this and that. But
they were mourning louder than the bereaved.
Yes, exactly so. Okay. The J.J. Kamodos at the time and so on. But you see, the president himself, as we were told by some people from State House, that when that guy saw that cartoon, he was very happy. And many years later on, when the comedy trio of Ridiculous were making fun of him, I was actually in one show where guys drew guns and told them, get off that stage. Yes, and it happened on Gong Road, one of those rugby pitches or whatever, and the show stopped.
It was that.
It
was yes, it was Harlequin.
Harlequins, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you can imagine that later on, these guys actually went and performed for Moi, privately, that kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, sometimes the so-called influential people we are talking about. Let me put it this way. There are those ones who are hostile, like the late Nicholas Biwott. Yeah, drawing him was a challenge. We did, but we were damn scared of the guy. Let me be honest. Oh yes, he was scary. We didn't like the media at all. Whoever you are in it, the editor, a reporter, or a pesky cartoonist, who on earth are you? That kind of thing. So the threats were there. Phone calls and so on, I come from a time where people were picked up from right under our noses.
Yes.
Yeah, if you remember the late Wahome Muthui, who wrote Whispers, the column. In those days, in the late 80s, 20 shillings was a lot of money.
Yes.
So I went and asked him for 20 shillings. He told me that, I'll give it to you in a while. Can't you see I'm typing? That while was quite a while. Yes, yeah. Because as I was waiting, they came for him.
He was picked up.
Yes, they picked him up.
Before he had dipped his hand in the pocket to give you a 20 bob.
1988. We never saw him again for 15 months.
And about the copies that you made that were then spiked by the editor.
Yeah.
Were you given a reason? Like, was it because, sometimes as an editor, you're looking at the story that has been brought to you and you feel there's nothing newsworthy here. So you just basically say there's no story. Was it the case for you? Like, okay,
no,
so this cartoon
Ali Afid in this case, and I'm going to use his name. Ali Afid in this case never gave any reason at all. It was that excellent. That's
it. Just doesn't
no
like
appeal,
it
no nothing like today's appeal somewhere. There was nothing like that. His word was no was a no. And we hardly saw him. It's not like the other editors in chief that who'd interact with their personnel.
The hoi polloi.
Yeah, call you to the office, have a discussion and so on. Ali Afid was never like that. And actually wasn't really covering up for Moi as such. It was more of the late Saitoti because they were very close buddies. And, again, he didn't like the way he used to draw Saitoti, with his neck and wherever. So that, just the caricature itself, was a problem.
There's something that I'd like to ask. Are we going on a break, Eric?
No.
Okay. Your experience has spanned over decades.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Which means you've seen presidents come and go.
I guess we can put it that way.
Yes, and you've also seen politicians come and go. Them more so. Them they've come wholesale because there are really many in number. And you've also seen trends come and go, and you have illustrated trends as well.
That's right.
If I were to give you a new role and ask you to be a clairvoyant.
A what?
Okay.
Fine. Yes, go ahead.
Let me put in Kiswahili. Kuwa mchawi.
Sawa.
Okay. If you were to gaze into the future, looking at our politics, what trajectory do you see our politics taking? Because one of the things that you also do, you also offer a trajectory of what you think the future would look like. And some of your caricatures have done precisely that. Not commented on what's happening, but foreseen and spoken about. So what, if I may ask, would you see?
That's what umeniweka niwe mganga mkuu.
Anyway.
So, you see, from my experience, spanning now, my column is 32 years old. Yes. As you put it, I've seen these people come and go. It's from the days that we are dealing with 210 or is it 212 members of parliament to I don't know how many, 400, 300, I don't know, and 1,000 or 2,000 MCAs, So for someone like myself to stay relevant with what I do, obviously I have to pick the juicy ones, and so on, and the rest I can comment on them collectively. Yes. Yeah, that kind of a thing. Anyway. From the landscape, the foreseeable landscape, and from where we've come from, Kenya is in actually for some very interesting times. Oh yes, yeah. I dare say that back in '92, we knew who was going to become president. It was either Moi or Matiba. In 2002, we knew it was going to be either Kibaki or Uhuru. 2013 it was Raila or Uhuru, as well as 2017. Next year was becoming tricky. In fact, people are like, okay, now this one we can't tell. And actually, up to this point, it's still a little tricky. But it's becoming clearer. And even, I think by this evening, it will become a lot even more clear after the events of in the appellate court.
Pronouncements by the
Yes, yeah. So this country should brace itself for very exciting times in politics. And I dare say that I've always been, okay, I'm not a pessimist, but I do look at things that are coming with the optimism of some sort. The children that we have today, or at least young people in the mid-teenage, are going to enjoy this country. It's going to be different. It's going to be totally different. You can even see the political narratives that are now being given out to politicians, to wananchi. Yes. Totally different from what was there before. Everything is going to become issue-based. But it's going to take quite a while. I'm not saying this is going to occur in a couple of years. It's going to take quite a while. That's what I'm saying. Somebody who's 15 years old today, probably by 35, by 40, things are going to be totally different in this country. But for now, we still have to grapple with the same old kind of politics, which was there before, 70s, 80s, 90s, but now on a higher level. It's on a different level, more vicious than it was at that time.
One of the themes that you've often cartooned about is corruption. Yes. You've done this quite often. What is your take, past, present, and future? The way in which corruption was carried out in this country, in the region, the way that it is happening presently, what will happen in the future? What have your thoughts been on this that have then led you to some of the creations that you did on corruption?
Yeah, the fight is still far from over, regrettably. So much so. You know, had we followed the 2010 set of laws, the so-called new constitution, down to the letter, things will obviously be totally different right now, very much so. Because Chapter 6, for example, is something that has been torn to bits. But if it was upheld, at least just, let's say, 2/3 of it, then things will be totally different right now. We cartoonists have constantly reminded the government and its players that this has to be adhered to, and this is the only path. Forget about the other areas, because it's corruption that's actually killing this country, killing all other sectors, poisoning young people. I'm in college, and I'm in a hurry to get out there and buy myself a VX, which is not really possible if you go the organic way, isn't it? Now, I've also pointed out in my work that, please allow me to say this, had the president, in the time that he's been around, forget about the first term, we know it's tricky. There's tribes to deal with, guys who supported you, guys who funded your campaigns and whatever. But right now, it is in his final term. If I was he, what I'd have done is grab a certain number of people, just as a sacrifice. You can't take everybody to jail. Not in this country. Almost everybody's a thief. So we don't even have enough prison room for that. So I've advised him through my column one day that go for an odd number, 17 people or 27.
31.
Yeah, 31 people. Then make sure that there's a former police commissioner there, there's a member of parliament, there's a governor, there's a senator, an MCA, servant, a business person, civil servant,
a member of the civil society,
and his cousin. And his cousin.
Cousins are important.
Yes. Then explain to these people, it's just too bad, but you have to do something. Then.
Take one for the team.
Oh, yes. Then make sure that these people go to jail for 2 years without an option of a fine. Oh, yes. But as it is right now, we are not saying...
So it's a negotiated deal.
Kind of.
Call the 21 guys.
And I'm telling you, Latif,
I needed to do this for
had that occurred, or if it was to occur in the next 11 months, what will happen is that people will become scared. But you see, this is just open. It's open. Today, personnel in government service feel like they're doing you a favor. This is absolutely wrong.
But here's a challenge, Paul, that the president does not have the powers to take people to jail. Not anymore.
No, of course not.
Right?
Yeah.
He'll have to use the proper channels.
Yes.
He tried to do that by going to Parliament, a public space, during a publicly televised address in a privileged house, and he said, I am taking action And Mr. Speaker, I am leaving here names of people that I want out of my government that I've directed the EACC and DPP, who I don't have control over, to commence investigations and take to court. He tried that.
Yeah, that's right.
And what happened? They went to court. They got their tribal people to come and support them. Those cases never went anywhere.
As much as you might be right, Latif, there's this one thing, and that is political goodwill. Once that is there, the courts will automatically not dance to the president's tune. Of course not. Yeah, we are aware about the laws. You point that out. But if there's that, him screaming every day, anti-corruption songs, the crusades and whatever, each and every day, it will sink into the judiciary, into DCI, into DPP, and ourselves. We'll start getting scared. But if he's going to make that statement in Parliament, then then that's the last time we hear of that. We definitely have a problem. But he has to be whipping these people throughout. There's a lot of energy that he used fighting the judiciary, fighting some highly placed personnel there for like 4 years. Had he exhibited that kind of energy in the fight against corruption, then by now, honestly, we should have some positive results. But as it is, there's nobody in jail for this. And the only person who went to jail for that, for corruption, and was given quite a hefty fine and jail sentence, is out right now, leading us to believe that it was just a political kind of warning shot to opponents of the president.
Which I hear you, and I hear everything you're saying. In fact, we argue that the same way here. But then looking at it from the other side, it can also be argued, and in fact, the president himself has come out to say, even when he appears like he's, fighting with the leadership of the judiciary, he brings in the issue of the judiciary. I am trying my best to push and to fight corruption, but everything goes and sits at the judiciary. And I'm saying, you judiciary, we are not seeing like you're doing the same thing. You're not putting in the structures that ensure that there is no bottleneck in your end. You can say it's the same. He's actually not been fighting the judiciary. He's trying to push through the fight against corruption.
Yeah, obviously, we must admit that
why are you all laughing?
All presidents have actually tried to move against corruption. But corruption has been allowed, or was allowed, to become quite an ogre, a giant, that once in place, it becomes so difficult to deal with, because these are the same people that you might find your supporters within. I'm not talking about supporters on the streets, in your party colors and so on. I'm talking about
financiers.
Exactly so.
But Paul, I like your analogy of it being a giant, but I actually think corruption in this country is like a virus. Because
that's very tiny.
Yes, because it's insidious. You don't notice when it actually gets you. The manifestations of it are the ones we're always reacting to. Like we react to cancer. That's an outcome.
Yeah.
Okay? There are other little cancers that happen in between at cancer that you never really hear about. But this one, because of COVID, loud, big, huge.
So we treat the symptoms.
Yes.
Continue treating the symptoms.
Yes. And why I'm calling it a virus, there is no ministry in this country. There is no aspect of our lives that is spared. So it's everywhere. So it's this giant pandemic that we have. And what is worse, it's affecting even people you hope you would shield from it.
Yes.
So that it is becoming part and parcel of the new moral order. We've even discussed in this show, why don't we just legalize it so that so that we say okay.
Then you're okay.
Yeah. Bribes up to 50 bob free.
You have a quota. Or you have a quota. Or you have a
No,
quota for
there's
the
no
month.
tax that one.
Yeah.
Bribe over 1,000 shillings. Okay?
Yeah.
50% goes to the government. If you don't declare it, the government takes everything. Yes.
They're coming for you.
Yes, meaning these lifestyle audits we keep talking about. Like there's one official of the Kenya National Highways Authority who right now is under scrutiny. If you understood that beyond, by the way, take to court, it is clear the person can't actually justify what they own. It shouldn't be a push and pull. It should be direct. But even if you say these things, I'm aware sometimes we're being facetious because there is no easy solution, much as we may try, because in our own way, we are all involved, as you correctly put it, in this process.
Yeah.
We will talk good, we'll talk good governance, we'll talk chapter 6 until somebody whom we are close to or whom we support is in a position in which chapter 6 might embarrass them. Then suddenly chapter 6 is not that relevant. Yes.
Well, that virus can still bring down an elephant.
That virus can kill an elephant.
Can kill an elephant.
Yes.
Okay, what we obviously need then is a vaccine of some sort.
Mhm.
Since vaccine, top topic right now. We need that kind of solution. So, exactly what is it? What is that? What we need?
We have vaccine apathy. That one you've seen.
We have anti-vaxxers as well. What would that vaccine be? What it is calling a vaccine for him is legalize this thing, accept it and normalize it, and say, okay, we are going to live with this virus.
It's normalized anyway.
Yeah,
So,
it's a pity. I once sat down with a very senior DCI official, and he told me this before the scam of the dams broke, before it was in the media, and he told me, "Look, Mado, we are investigating these people for these on these dams, and do you know what they're doing? They are busy actually coming up with new schemes to get money out of treasury and so on."
They've moved on to the next one.
They've moved on to the next one, and they're being investigated. So obviously, this is a total impunity when you know that you can't, nothing will happen to you as it is. I've got a confession to make. I regard myself as a very clean guy, and I've survived my 32 years producing this column because no politician can buy me. But however, I've received 10,000 shillings. Yeah. I didn't know. I had no idea that it was meant to influence me. Somebody just told me, "Oh, wow, man, good work. Why don't you have a drink?" So, I took it as a good Kenyan and went and had my Tusker. Then he calls later on, "You see, now, what I want you to do," I told him, no. It doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't work that way. And too bad your 10K is gone.
It didn't have a refund policy.
No way. And at least he's not a guy who can come and pop you off later on. But seriously, we are. There's always a way. Charles,
Yes,
I visited this tiny country called Estonia with your brother, Wycliffe.
Yes.
A couple of years ago.
Yes.
And I was very surprised to see how it is today. It's a nice, clean society.
Yes.
Very good democracy and so on. And this country,
yes,
you remember it was a satellite or whatever province of the USSR.
Paul,
Yeah.
the story of Estonia begins. It was colonized by the Swedes, by
Yeah.
the Germans,
No, but
by
actually
the Turks. It's a long story. By the Soviets, by the Russian Empire.
There's a large German population there.
Yes.
And the Estonians kind of don't really like, and Russians. And Russians in Estonia control the media actually.
Yes.
As it is now. This country, when it became independent at last, again, that is
in 1991 now.
91 from Russia.
Yes.
For the next few years, it was the most corrupt nation in Europe. Let's not talk about Belarus and Lithuania and all these other countries.
And Slovenia and what have you, yes.
It was so corrupt, like what we are right now. That's everything.
They had our standards.
Yes.
Okay.
Kabisa, you know, today you are stopped for speeding, and this lady cop tells you, I'm not saying that it was a lady cop, that, police bail is 5,000 shillings, na ile ya kuhonga ni 1,000. I looked at her kind of, no, let me go to court. It's crazy. So that's what Estonia was. But if you go to Estonia today, you will realize that something happened in between that period of their darkness. I remember at that time when they became newly independent, they were still operating in that kind of Soviet system.
Yes.
So they were yet to outgrow it. So, and us here, we are yet to outgrow so many other systems that have been there before. So, there was it's a transition period between that period of time and what this country is today that we in Kenya should study. And what did they do? Because that is unknown. Corruption is unknown.
What did they do?
It's a long story. It's a long story. I would urge,
does it involve an individual person coming in, or is it just a system?
Yeah, it's a system.
It's all that, Eric. It's all that.
It's a system that develops, and that the goodwill of the political leadership and the people that we need to go in this direction. We have had that. We have blueprints. In fact, the 2010 Constitution is a perfect blueprint for that. That if we went with it, then we are obviously going to be in the right direction.
I think you've said political goodwill of leader and people.
Yes.
We are
that
equally,
combination has to be there.
We are equally as guilty.
You see, when we are, we definitely are. We are partners in this. When you look at the leadership and the determination, the determination that the leadership has infuses, and the people also now acquire determination, because that is a country that is ICT compliant almost to 99%. Meaning, this Wi-Fi people keep talking about, it's gone, it's not there, it's coming tomorrow, it might not come. They have it. And it's the only country I know that has a president who is female and a prime minister who is female, meaning president number 2, both female.
Exactly so.
It's a culture.
Yeah,
meaning
they've accepted it.
It's become a culture.
This is somebody who's competent. Give them the job.
Yeah, we shall run our country the best way.
She's a lot different from the other ladies who are leading Europe. She's a mother. She's a wife with children.
4 children.
Yeah.
Very private about her family life. But she's also a beekeeper.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting stories. Let's take a break and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since the top of the hour. We thank you very much for joining us every morning. Paul Kalemba Mado is here until 10 o'clock. So you can switch to SpiceFM 94.4, Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, Nakuru 102.5, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 in Nyeri and Malindi, 97.7. Or also you can catch the conversation on SpiceFM, YouTube, Facebook or Twitter.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start
so we're
your
to the top
day.
of the hour, Mado, and like that example that you were going somewhere. You went to Estonia, you saw this, and then you looked at the history of Estonia, the present day Estonia. How long did it take for that transformation to take place? Is it a couple of years, 40 years, 30 years?
They got their independence in 1991.
Just the other day.
Yeah. So by 98, they were still doing badly.
They were doing very badly. Actually.
Yes. It's around, let's say, 99. Then it took quite...
Give it 2000 to now.
Yeah.
So around the time that we were electing NAC here, they were transforming.
Yes.
And now they have moved. Us guys
they've really moved.
are back to Kadu.
To me, it's about there's a blueprint.
And following the
blueprint. Then
and sticking to it.
Then we say, let's stick to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Time for the news. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, celebrating 2 years of broadcasting on SpiceFM, online and on TV. We have as our guest host for the next 2 hours, on the show, Paul Kalemba Mado, he of the Mad World. Time for the news, and after that we continue the conversation looking at it. Okay, so what is likely to come out of the BBI ruling? Whichever way it goes, what do we as a country do? And also we'll open the phone lines for you to chime in and have your conversation. 0719 012 600. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Kenyans are eager to know the fate of the BBI as the Court of Appeal today gives its judgment over the matter filed in court by the pro-BBI supporters. The appellate court will be pronouncing itself on the matter, especially on the pertinent issues of whether the entire BBI process followed the correct procedures as required by law. During the ruling, only 16 lawyers will be allowed in court. But as we wait for the ruling later today, what are Kenyans saying?
Hakuna kitu inasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida. Hiyo ni ya kutajirisha wale wako huko juu. Mimi naomba koti iagushe kabisa, itupilie bali.
Vile baba ametuambia BBI kama itaenda through hapo sawa, ikianguka si tunakubaliana baba focus na presidency.
BBI ipite 100%. Kwa maana hiyo BBI sio ya Raila au Ruto, hii ni ya wajuko, ni ya mwananchi. Mnaleta pesa majinani mjisaidie.
BBI ni nyoka.
Kwa nini mnaleta? Usilete siasa ya 22 na BBI.
Deputy President William Ruto has said that Kenyans don't need politics that are of no benefit to them. Speaking in his current residence while hosting religious leaders from Embu County, the DP said that the constitutional changes process through the BBI is not aimed at addressing issues Kenyans have, but what will benefit a few individuals get positions.
Through the economic revolution provided by the bottom-up economic model, it is not the coalition of the mighty or powerful or known or the great, but it is going to be the alliance of the ordinary people that is going to assemble our energy and create the revolution that will give everybody an equal opportunity by changing our economy.
Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga has called on Kenyans to work towards reconciliation as a nation. Raila says for the country to be economically empowered, we must maintain peace and unity. Raila, while speaking in Homa Bay County, called on other political leaders to follow suit as we approach next year's general elections.
We must cleanse our country of the spirit of anger and bitterness, spirit of revenge and entitlement. We must continue on a path that reconciles, unites, calms and stabilizes our country. We must embrace forgiveness and not vindictiveness. We must make compromises and form coalitions and alliances for the sake of the nation.
One Kenya Alliance leaders have denied reports that President Uhuru Kenyatta is forcing them to support ODM leader Raila Odinga's 2022 presidential ambitions in next year's general election. NC leader Musalia Mudavadi, Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula said their agenda with President Uhuru Kenyatta were on how best we can fight COVID-19 pandemic and not the 2022 politics.
Indeed, yesterday's meeting was one such conference where a new COVID surge and containment measures were the subject of the extensive discussion. No one asked or even suggested that we support anyone for anything.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so what does it look like? It's getting better in some parts, but you still have those areas where it's still a bumper-to-bumper situation. Mombasa Road is, edging along slowly here and there, but we know that it's going to pick up more as the minutes tick by. Officially getting out of traffic hour, but there's still quite some heavy traffic inbound on Mombasa Road. Also on Langata Road still continues to be a thing. And we're looking at Westlands and that area coming out towards the University Way roundabout still. With some traffic this morning. Thika Road is looking a little bit better now. Hopefully it stays that way, at least for now. SpiceFM KE on Twitter through the day. Text on 40127. Let's see what it looks like in about half an hour from now.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only
it's
way.
5 minutes after 9. Very good morning to you and welcome to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this week. CT, today's proverb.
When the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. You do not blame the ones who committed the sin, but the ones who created the darkness.
Okay. So using that example of Estonia, How do you relate this proverb?
Remember the darkness that we were speaking of with reference between was colonization. They were going about their business. Some people who felt that they had more might came in and they did. And that colonization changed hands. Now, you cannot pretend that it doesn't change the people also. And then decades go by, they get independence around 1915, 18 there. Then again colonize, you move along. And then the next time is 1991. Now, the darkness is illuminated even better when you look at the progress they've made. Because they then shone that light of determination onto their situation, and lo and behold, they are where they are today.
Exactly so.
That's true.
So, as I insist, once you come up with a blueprint and you tell yourselves, being both political leadership and the population, that this is what we are going to stick on.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you're definitely going to arrive somewhere. You see, some people have argued before that, say, look, Estonia and other countries such as those ones, this is a tiny country whose population, if you brought it to Nairobi, you can just distribute it into the slums only and they'll fit there.
They're around 2 point something.
Yes.
And they'll still be a minority.
Kabisa. Oh yes. The rest of us Nairobians don't even have to move out. But you see, the thing is not the thing is not really about size of a population. For me, it has always been the idea and the ideals, what you can borrow. So you can always borrow a fine example from somebody who's younger than you.
Yes, you can.
Oh yes. And say, okay, fine. Okay, sometimes you might not really want to admit it, but if it's going to help you and society is a better place, why not?
Why not?
Yes, sure.
Why not? Yeah. Some updates. The Court of Appeal has started delivering its ruling on the BBI. It's now happening. The Court of Appeal. As we were hearing in the news, Dennis Aseto playing the news clip, he played a clip of people who are having a conversation about what to expect on this BBI. Just ordinary mwananchi. And there's one who said, BBI ni nyoka. Don't even bring that conversation to me. And the other one was saying, do not mix the BBI conversation with the 2022 succession politics. Those are different. Unaletewa pesa mashinani kusaidie. See, there's all this different understanding of what BBI represents to the people. Do you think we all speak the same language when we say BBI?
Of course not.
We don't understand. Do we understand the same thing?
Of course not, yeah. Politicians, as we know, can go either side. It depends on what's in it for them and so on. We know that. We've seen that before. But about the general population, first of all, there's the lack of comprehension of what this document really is. And then for those who understand, there's, yes, what does it mean? Is President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake partner, Raila Odinga, telling us you can just sit somewhere and change a few clauses in the constitution and you improve the economy, you bring the country together, you unite the people just like that by doing that? You know, they're bound to ask that. There are those ones who are going to say that it should take more than that. It should just take more than, redoing this thing. There are those indeed who've said that why don't we carry on with what we have since we've not even exhausted it, and maybe through parliamentary processes like which has been done before, kind of update, alter,
tweak what needs to be tweaked.
Yes, a law or two, and then we carry on. Don't ask me for my opinion right now because mine has been varied and it's always carried somewhere else. But speaking on behalf of all these people, there's that total confusion. And there's also now, I don't want to call a section of Kenyans ignorant, but yes, we do indeed have at different levels people who do not really comprehend what has been going on, and they rely on their political leaders to tell them.
Yeah.
So if this leader says it is good, then it is so. If that other one says it is bad,
then it is bad.
Then it is so. Which is a pity in this country. Yeah. Which obviously will bring us around to the question about how literate really are we?
I mean, I think you've also, I mean, as you say these words, and I just remember, work that you've done that is just lying right along these lines. And I can't remember, but there was something to the effect of, there was you had drawn a crowd of people who were following a thought bubble. So they were just kind of following the bubble without looking at the meat
The
of
content,
the
yeah.
content of what is actually being said. And the politician or the leader is thriving on this hill of, well, I'm going to thrive on this ignorance because it will take me further. Are we still in that situation? From what you're saying, Kenya is still in that situation where a lot of people are following what a leader or particular politician will say.
Yes.
And it's based on ignorance. But this politician is thriving on that situation.
Yes, and they know it. Politicians are not stupid people. I mean, to get there, you talk your way up there, really. And we've got various examples. So they know that, and they'll thrive on the ignorance of a large swathe of the Kenyan population. About the people themselves, okay, let me say this. It has been known that some regimes kind of curtail education, or, what do you call it, Charles? What do you call this civil...
Civil society?
Yes.
Which aspect of it do you want me to...
No.
Or civil education? Civic education?
Civic education. Civic education. You can even see that there used to be a party that was really against that. You would rather have an ignorant crowd of voters than those who have acquired some knowledge, because now that becomes dangerous. They'll start questioning and so on. So what is going on right now, and it's going to go on for a damn long time, is that person will wake up early in the morning from that informal settlement where this person, I can't say thrive, lives, and go and vote for this person who told him that, those guys are bad. Yeah, that tribe or whatever, they want to eat, it has to eat and so on, without thinking about what is it in it for me. Yeah, we've seen that, and the examples are actually all over the place.
And it keeps... I want to take what you've just said and make that then our conversation, even as we open up the conversation to the audience. How literate is a Kenyan voter? How literate are Kenyan voters? And you talk about political literacy here. Because this is all about, are we at that point where we are so ignorant that somebody will come and just tell us this is the way to go, and we don't have time to interrogate, or we are not taking time to interrogate what we've been asked? Is it about our political literacy?
No.
Or is it that we are actually very highly literate, but we choose to ignore our knowledge and follow something else?
Actually, on that list of things you mentioned, I would argue it is, what do you think an ordinary Kenyan prioritizes? Because if we just, to juxtapose it, let's move aside from literacy in electoral matters and look at the choices we make on a daily basis in our social lives. What do you think someone will prioritize, to eat or to go to hospital? To send a child to school or to go to hospital? I'm simply saying, on the balance of things, the decision that an ordinary Kenyan voter makes has to do with what they think is of a priority, not of importance. There are many things that are of importance, but at that particular point in time, what they think is, in my opinion, important to them.
So at the point, how does that translate in the ballot?
It translates in the ballot very simply in that for the longest time, there has been the belief that the person who has your interest is the person who comes from where you come from. And hopefully they also represent what you feel. Now, the opposition has had a field day with this in this country for the longest time, because from the time government suppressed the opposition, anybody who felt that the government had ignored them would then align themselves with the opposition, because they'd feel this is the person who is actually talking my language and seems to understand me. Yes.
So then that comes into the political literacy.
No.
Because if you're politically literate, it means that, yes, as you consider what is happening today, you're also looking at it from that overall perspective of Is it because you are Luo like me, Kikuyu like me, Kamba like me, or is it because you understand my needs? If you have political literacy, you'll actually be voting with what is important to you. And you'll have
where
a
you're from.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but the two are intertwined. Those two are Siamese twins. I mean, consider for a single second.
But before that, CT, that means that even if you have somebody who is a proposed leader, it won't matter where that individual is from if they're able to deliver your needs. And I think that's where we're going. We were talking about political literacy. That I won't necessarily need to be aligned with you in terms of where we are from, but I realize that you can deliver a need, and so I'm not going to link our tribe or our tribal leanings in any way.
I think we're debating definitions. What you are explaining as political literacy is actually absolutely correct. I wouldn't call it political literacy. No.
What would you call it?
I would call it the tyranny of poverty. Not political.
Actually, that's what I was waiting to say. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
No, please, Paul. No, please. You're the guest here, please. Yes.
No, sorry.
When your guest, Tiwan.
I was afraid that you guys are missing that out because political illiteracy is there. But then again, there's the subject of poverty.
Reality.
And this is actually what leads to the whole mess that we are in. From what you just said about the choices that this person has got, isn't it? Yeah? Yes. Yeah. What do you choose during that day? Now, if you don't have the money to make those options, school, hospital, food, and whatever. If you don't have that money at all, then here comes this guy on his through the roof, sunroof of his big car, and he's throwing around some little money and so on. The thinking of that Kenyan there is that this guy has saved the day for me.
Yes, because their lives are based on a day.
So that 100 bob or the 50 shillings or whatever comes floating through the air. This guy grabs it. There are so many people, and they're really fighting over it and so on. And they're very happy. Mheshimiwa, that's a great guy. Yeah. But now these people, because of that political illiteracy, don't realize that there's tomorrow. That they'll need the same amenities tomorrow. They need to eat and so on. That is.
So you agree then?
Yes.
That it is because of low political literacy.
Yes,
that this person decision is making that decision based on the today.
Yes,
and the today is not looking at the context of. So yes, this person has given me 100 bob, but that 100 bob that is given me is going to cost me a lot more
tomorrow
in terms of how am I going to be able to eat tomorrow? Am I going to be able to take my child to school tomorrow? To take my family to hospital tomorrow?
Yeah. I am saying that. It's the poverty that brings about that situation. It is the platform, it's a springboard from which all these things emanate. It influences the decisions you make, your thinking. It influences who you vote for. It influences who you support. So that even if you actually have that knowledge that we're referring to as political literacy, the immediacy of your need will shunt that aside.
Hunger is a
you'll say, okay. Recently, this country, we're building many dams.
And we need to build more.
Yes. Now, there's one that is taking place in Kirinyaga. Okay? And the PS, Kibisho, went to supervise. And he explained at great length the economic benefits that come from such infrastructure. Now, anyone who has just a basic understanding of economics will know what he was saying represents the truth. Like these roads that we have, this road we're complaining about, it's supposed to. The moment you have infrastructure, a lot changes. But now, this is where the poverty comes in. We have had a history in this country of talked about infrastructure which doesn't help. And it never comes to an end. It never is completed. So what you then build is a whole litany of mistrust. Now, this mistrust brings with it a certain poverty of trust. That's what so poverty here is wholesome. It's not just, I don't have money. Poverty of trust at that level. Then there's a poverty of spirit that accompanies it. You now, that will to even think and believe is slowly eroded to the point where you figure, why am I fighting this and I can be like everybody else? We see it manifested in the way our people have decided that everybody can steal wherever they are. So what am I saying? Even if we allowed our people and we ensured that they understand and effort was made, it will be interfered with by this poverty. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, yeah. And there's also that collective kind of feeling in a community that if top leadership belongs to us, then, it comes with wealth. And that wealth should remain within. It doesn't matter that you're in a wooden shack somewhere.
Mud.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you think that that people, as we are right now, in the country, also realize that those in positions of governance and leadership then essentially would be responsible for alleviating this situation, which oftentimes takes center stage from them making these other decisions? Do they realize that these individuals who come and give the 100 bob on one day and then, like Eric is saying, forgetting about tomorrow,
they do
realize that these individuals can actually be the ones in the long term to alleviate this situation that is stopping you from thinking about tomorrow?
Yeah.
So what makes them not make the right choice?
Exactly.
Not touching on the economic models that politicians are kind of talking about right now, because I think it's a lot of hogwash in it. For many years, we know that politicians have actually strived to keep Kenyans poor. Yeah. So we've never really had any concrete programs for poverty alleviation. Yeah. That's it. That's in my view.
Yeah.
We don't see it. And the so-called 4 pillars being pushed by the government right now, indeed, these are great things. Oh, yes. I mean, any country is bring up on those 4. But you see, to me, in my view, there should be a 5th one. Though some people will say that, okay, economically empowering Kenyans is already catered for within those 4 pillars. But no. I would rather have a pillar that addresses this problem exclusively. We know that attempts are there, here and there, is through housing, through job creation and all this. But you will notice that all these things are moving at a snail pace because it is deliberate. That's what I believe. It is deliberate. Keep your population. It's not exclusively a Kenyan thing. It's out there. Keep your population poor and ignorant, and they won't give you problems.
So what's this 5th pillar?
Poverty alleviation. An exclusive pillar just for that.
Poverty alleviation.
Yes, yeah. But you see, one might try to counter what I'm saying by saying that, hey, look, there's industrialization.
Job creation.
Yeah, job creation is within those other areas. No. But to me, it's first of all, we have to find out what is wrong, what is sick in this population. Yeah, all the way from the north and west to the rich rolling coffee farms of this country and tea farms and so on. What is it? What is ailing us? What keeps some of us just poor? There's some areas where people just actually like it that way, and it's okay. We're all right.
We are
we live poor. We are poor. We live like this. Yeah. Well, see, now these are the guys that you're supposed to go and
but do they accept it, or are they just resigned to it?
No. It's not a matter of being resigned to it. I was speaking to this army. He's now a general. At the time he was somewhere just below that. And I told him that I really pity these people in the north who have to be fed every drought time and so on. Then he told me, what are you talking about? I've worked there for many years. Those guys enjoy it. I was actually taken aback,
What do they enjoy exactly? I mean,
Serikali's idea, bring food. But see, my argument will be that the way people lived a couple of centuries ago, there was a cycle of life. Drought was there and everything, and we were prepared for it. Communities were in small little kind of whatever settlements and so on. They could take care of themselves.
Yeah.
When a country is put together, you put all these communities together, and that's why we have a nation. Yeah. Now you put all these people together inside the same boundaries. As I say now, calling it a nation, then we have a problem. Because we are not the same people. We don't believe in the same things. There's somebody who knows how to fish. There's a guy who from ancient times there's nothing wrong about crossing some hills to go and grab somebody's cattle. You know, that's okay. And so on, there's somebody else who can do whatever they are good in. Now, the country should have a proper program to look at all this. You cannot put this guy who still has who still maybe 100 years behind everybody else, and this other person who's very well in agriculture, and manage
them the same.
Yeah, manage them together. Well, I know. The economy has been devolved, but really, who's pulling the strings? The central government, and that's where all these policies should come from. And also now go down to the counties, and it should be with a big whip that this is going to happen.
I'm still sticking with that issue of literacy and illiteracy, because I think that at that point of decision making, if all those things, if a people for whatever reason, maybe let's assume that this military person had actually interacted with this community for a while, and he came to that conclusion that they sit back and they enjoy receiving this from the government for whatever reason. It could be, finally we are getting something that we've been contributing to these people for so long. At least finally we're getting something back. Maybe it's the same mentality as those that say go and grab and come and bring to us and tuletea hapa chini tu pesa itembee, pesa serikali itembee from corruption. Maybe it's the same mentality, but it comes down to just not understanding that structure, not understanding the power that you have. Because for me, politics is about power. And power, like has been said in this constitution, belongs to that voter. If that voter does not understand that actually I am the one who wields the power, not the person that I am voting for, that I am the one then who can also determine what happens to this person going forward, then it will not change a thing. But if we get to a point where, yes, there is that political literacy, I'll be able to contextualize. I am poor, yet my country has a 3 trillion shillings budget, and I should be able to be getting the benefits of a 3 trillion shilling budget. I am facing this problem today. My child is not going to school, yet the education ministry has an 800 billion shillings budget. My child should be accessing education. I am not accessing healthcare, yet the healthcare budget in this country is X. I should be able to access that. Or even if not knowing the figures, just knowing the prioritization, knowing who's in charge of it, and knowing the role that the person that you're electing plays.
Eric, what you say is actually absolutely true, but
it's almost utopian.
Yes, it is utopian.
It's there,
and it is good to have aspirations, because in the absence of aspirations, what will you be heading towards? There's a little consideration here that in my mind ought to also be discussed. How do you get the mwananchi to actually understand this simple thing, that everything that the Constitution says about his rights are actually true, and that they apply to him or her,
or how he or she can demand for them?
It's a mix. It's a mix of having a leadership that has the goodwill to deliver, and then people starting to see that, and that leadership will have no issues at all with civic education. Their role will be to come to you and explain, you see why I'm doing this? Because it's my job to do this.
And I think
you see why I'm delivering? Because it's my job to deliver. Once you create that, then that person knows the next person I'm going to elect, I'm expecting this. It starts from that leadership.
You're talking about the power of
that person that you described just now, and all those questions. Obviously, that's where we want to go. That's where we should be leading. There should be actually a super highway in that direction. Yes.
Expressway.
Yes, yeah. I love that, by the way. I really love that. Once, okay, it will take us a while, a generation or two and so on.
Maybe not.
And
Estonia.
I'm saying it shouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm of the view that it shouldn't.
Estonia.
You don't think so? Yeah, there we are. Okay, probably they're slightly different people and so on, and our population is pretty large. Heading towards 50 million. We're talking. It's quite a number of people.
Well, you have a point.
Yeah.
But you see, the determination that particular country and its people have had in abundance, it's not that we haven't had it. If you look at just what ordinary Kenyans do just to survive, and then you put it across what the government does in response, the government figures they'll sort themselves out.
Yep.
Instead of joining the Mwananchi and them doing what they're supposed to do, you see, the Mwananchi at some level is actually moving in the direction that you want them to move. But there's a limit to how far they can go until and unless the government comes in and does what it's supposed to do. The beef we're always having here is that shortfall, the government not doing what we know they're supposed to do.
Education is key, yes. Absolutely. And it has worked in all countries. Kamuzu Banda, the late president of Malawi, for us older folks, we'll always remember that he never bothered about apartheid cross in South Africa.
No.
He was just there. So other more active leaders were asking him, why don't you do something? He told them, hey, look, let those Africans go to school and things will just change. Okay. But let me abandon that direction. Education works magic in any nation.
Sure.
Now, if a government, I'm generally speaking, if a government was just to push education, just let's push education. We are not talking about to empower these people economically. We are going to give them centers where they can go and do some little work. Then you are paid. No. Send these people to school. Various governments since when Kanu was in power, various governments have told us that they are doing the best that they can, even from Jomo Kenyatta's time. But I can call their bluff. There's always been holes. Systems have been manipulated. Results were played around with. Regions that were perceived to be not really supportive of the government would be kind of inhibited from getting good results and so on, people going to good schools and so on. But see, now if you leveled out everything, okay, there was hope like when Jubilee came into power with all their promises. And really, indeed, if they had achieved 70%, probably we'll be on the right path.
Even 30.
Yeah, there we are.
Even 30.
Yeah, we'll be on the right direction.
These guys have tried.
Yes. But as it is right now, to me, everything has stalled. And again, education in this country right now is, if you examine what's going on really in depth, it is pure rot. From the books that are being issued out to these kids.
Paul, consider for a second.
Yeah.
Do we
let's take a break.
Take a break.
Okay. 27 minutes to 10. Kenya's biggest conversation with Mado, Paul Kalemba. He's in the studio with us. He's our guest host today. What is it that we need to do to realize the country that we deserve to have? We'll open up the phone lines after this break, 0719 012 600. But first, let's take a look at the weather and traffic. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Johnny. Johnny. Johnny, hata unisikizi. Ni nini umesoma kwa simu hivyo?
Ni gazeti ya leo napitia.
Aje sasa. Si expert.
Ni 5 bob tu.
Keep up with the latest trends and news in health, real estate, finance, business, and entertainment from the convenience of your mobile phone. Dial star 550 star 3 hash to access pull-out sections of the Standard e-paper for only 5 shillings from your telecom line with no additional charges to enable you to stay up to date, informed, and entertained.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Mostly cloudy conditions at 17 in Nairobi, highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's cloudy at 16 in Nyeri with highs of 23. We'll see lows of 13 in Nakuru where it's cloudy at 17. 18 and mostly cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 22 and lows of 12. 17 will be the low in Kisumu where it's mostly sunny this morning at 25. 25 and also sunny in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 23 in a rainy Mombasa at 27, going to highs of 30. 29 will be the high in Malindi where it's raining at 26. Mostly sunny conditions at 24 in Kampala. Coming down to lows of 11. 23 will be the low in a mostly sunny Dar es Salaam at 27, going to highs of 30. 12 degrees warming up in Johannesburg, lows of 9 and highs of 23. Light rain in Lagos at 25 with highs of 29. 30 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kinshasa at 22. It's sunny out in Beijing. That'll be highs of 28 and lows of 21. 17 and cloudy in Paris with highs of 26 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 15 in a mostly sunny London at 23. That's what the high will be. 26 and clear in New York early Friday morning. Highs of 29 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, looking much better in most parts. I think it's turning out to be an okay day, except for just that stretch along Mombasa Road still seems to be quite thick. Coming from the Weybridge, then towards the SGR, and then headed outbound. So we're just going to keep an eye on this, and it should ease off soon. But unfortunately, it is Friday. Going into the weekend, we know it's going to clog up again later. So you might want to plan in advance so you don't get stuck. We're looking at some traffic still coming out of Westlands, Chiromo, that area, construction, keeping traffic quite heavy. So let's just watch out for that. Jogo Road looking much better now, as is Thika Road. I don't think we have that issue anymore. Clean roads now. Hopefully we can keep that, at least for most parts of the day. SpiceFM KE through the day on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
23 to 10.
right.
Remember,
94.4.
Traffic and what happens on the roads. We all have personal responsibility and safety as all road users, whether you're a motorist, whether you drive a Mercedes or a Pro Box or boda or a cyclist or you're just a pedestrian, all have a responsibility.
Absolutely. During this pandemic, we must protect ourselves, and that's for sure, our loved ones and our community. And we're looking at remembering to, try to do what we can as individuals to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Remember one of these things. Always wear your mask, especially when using public means of transport and when you're on the roads. Do not board a public service vehicle or a bus a matatu or a bus, unless you are wearing a mask. And actually you have the right to go ahead and ask the person sitting next to you to also do the same. So when you're on the roads, Usalama Barabarani starts with you and me. Fika Salama. It's a message from NTSA and the European Union.
Opening up the phone lines now. Speak to Mado 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. So we all have ideals of this country of ours, Kenya, where we need to go. There are some things that should not be a conversation today. Poverty. Ushenzi. Was it ushenzi or ujinga?
You know the poverty.
And umaskini. Umaskini, ujinga, ugonjwa.
All that is poverty, really. Because if somebody isn't educated, there's a poverty of knowledge. Okay? But look at two examples. The politician who dishes out money. We always focus on the person who receives the 50 bob, and we forget the mentality of this person who thinks that is the way to go about his business. Huge poverty there. Because this is somebody who clearly ran out of ideas a long time ago. Has no clue how to piece whatever resources he has been given by virtue of his position so that he can help his people in the present but also towards the future. He doesn't have that idea. That's why you see me harping on this poverty. Do you need to tell a Kenyan that if you have the ability to be good in sports, that you should pursue it? Specifically, if you're a good runner, you don't. You know why? People have seen the benefits that accrue from athletes who have excelled.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell them. They know, and they will push it, and they'll push the agenda. Now, we often talk of peer pressure, and we talk of peer examples, and we talk of examples of leadership. But If a leadership doesn't have the capacity, they have that poverty of purpose, poverty of direction to understand that when you put these resources towards bettering the lives of your people, not only do you better your life, yours, everything else that you look for, these high walls you build, that's not security. Security is in everyone around you having enough, or at least having a purpose and having hope. That's security.
Exactly.
So they don't feel the need to come and rob you, or they don't need to feel that they need to come and waylay you. But we continue with this thinking of amassing wealth at whatever cost, and you think that when you have this wealth, you are now secured. You're not. If you look at what happened in Kayole yesterday, and you look at the way people are now responding, we had the case in Embu of the young men. Yes. Look at the trends and look at how the communities are responding to these things. Just look at it. No one is going to tell them this is how you should respond. But it is clear that they're saying, no, we have enough. Now, why do these leadership insist on poking the bear? What do they think is going to be the eventual outcome of this nonsense that they're putting us through? Because it's continuous, and there will be a response.
Yeah, and that build-up is kind of frightening. Some of us are like, okay, fine, there's that reaction from the people following the frustration where cops get away literally with murder. Yeah, like what these two happenings, these two events, which is a pity. This should not happen. If a cop turns rogue and dispatches somebody, we should see action immediately.
No, we see action.
But you see, now we don't. We don't. In matter of fact, for the Embu incident, had public reaction not occurred the way it did, those cops will be
still have roaming about.
What would have happened? A slap on the wrist and a transfer.
Yeah, so exactly so. But this time it's like no. This must be done. Then again, just add on what you're saying about this. What do you call it? This rich guy with his high walls. Yes, it is true that if he empowered everybody by virtue of his position, everybody okay, and crime would probably dip, isn't it? But now this guy probably doesn't want that, because when you make that neighbor economically powerful, he or she will come for your position. That's what they think.
Yep.
Yeah. So you'd rather
Now, do you see the poverty? So that
this same CT was arguing the same way. Do these people realize that if they campaign to increase CDF, they are making their position insecure?
Yes. I actually said it, not quite the way you said it, but that is the gist of what I said, because it is true. Why do you think you have this preponderance of people who want to be MCAs? Because they've done the arithmetic and said, wait a moment.
There's money here.
I'm at home, not going to Nairobi. And I can even be a minister in the county government. Just look at the people or the caliber of individuals who are going to vie for those positions. In some places, it'll be even more hotly contested than that of the member of parliament.
And again,
yes.
Also coming back to the contents of chapter 6, isn't it? Where, we are seeing so many people in elective office today who are not really supposed to be there. Why do we start now dragging some people to court? You don't have the academic papers that you claim to have. Then he's a member of parliament somewhere. Obviously, we can't name him. Whose past has suddenly come out in the open, and he was
in
quite
court.
Looking at his recent history, just before he became member of parliament, it's frightening.
Yeah.
So these are the people that we attract into leadership. Yeah. And to me, again, I don't want us to go back, but this is what is dragging us back. And if only there were those hurdles for these people, then we start now moving towards a clearer kind of cleaner leadership, national leadership, whether it's national all the way down to the counties and so on, so that an MCA, rather somebody vying to become an MCA, does not do so because what they're looking at is not their salary, but what that position will bring
Right.
to them. Yeah.
Eric, you know that argument of yours of political literacy or civic literacy? I see it, but I'm thinking the leadership ought to have it because they don't have it. When we talk about citizens of Kenya, we think of the voter. This person who wants to be voted for, they have consistently shown us that they also don't understand it. There are few who do, and you can see what they do with the resources they have. You can actually see, and you say, this person seems to have figured this thing out. But the others seem to be just fumbling along. Yes.
And it's also the various systems that we've had, or just that collective system all the way from independence, has created avenues or ladders for people to get to top elective positions, not by going there with ideals that are, I want to change. I want to create change.
You want to create change for himself.
They're job seekers.
Yes. So once you have that, then you're in trouble. Then also again, for those few leaders who've come into office with a vision, and they really want to bring about change, they get caught up in what's going on. Let me just give you this very quickly. It's two cops who go to police college. One, the story of the good and the bad cop.
Right.
Yeah. So when they graduate together, the same age and whatever, they put on the same beat. Now the bad cop is taking money every night on the beat, and this other one is busy there telling, no, don't, it's wrong, and so on. But when they go back home, the bad cop's family is eating meat, nice fried meat. It's wafting all the way to his
neighbors.
Yeah, to his neighbor. And then, okay, I'm just assuming that the other guy is a man. So his wife tells him, you must be stupid. You guys are on the same pay. Then now this guy will change. That is now...
He's sucked into the system.
Yeah, that's not peer pressure, colleague pressure, and the system itself. So we get sucked in. And there's so many politicians like that we know.
Let's go to the phone lines. 0719012600. Alan in Buruburu,
Hello.
good morning.
Yeah, good morning, gang.
Good morning.
Say hi to my old drinking pal. That's my old drinking pal, Paul Kilemba.
Sawa.
He knew me as Crazy Alan from Boomerang and Carnival.
There we are. Yes, I remember you, definitely.
Yeah, the solution for Kenya is in Chapter 6. I agree with Paul Kilemba, Chapter 6. But if the new constitution is thrashed, we are all going to hell as Kenyans. Yeah. Have a good day and nice weekend.
Thank you, Alan.
Give my number to call me.
Asante.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alan. 0719012600. How do we actualize Chapter 6? I look at it from two fronts. There's Chapter 6 speaks of the ideals. There are those technical bits. So there's an academic qualification that if you meet, then you get into the ballot. There's the other one of, do you have any criminal record? But the rest, integrity, is something that the people who you interact with should be able to decipher. I say the biggest implementer or the impediment to the implementation of Chapter 6 is this illiterate voter that we have. Is we the voter?
Yeah, certainly we are not running away from that. What I'm insisting on are those two things. Yeah. Political illiteracy and the poverty levels in this country. And I think they complement each other, really. Yes. Oh, yes. If this person wasn't that poor and they went to school, they received a very good education, then they won't be that, they'll be politically mature, aware. Oh, yes, exactly so. And we should actually come and demonstrate. I'm not talking about throwing stones.
Right.
Come and show.
Yeah. Come out in the streets saying that we want Chapter 6 enhanced and put into play. We don't want to see any leader of questionable integrity coming into office, but that's not there.
But you're the ones we elect them.
And we did ask Cartoonist along with the Alliance Française Center a couple of years ago. We had a special exhibition on that, on Chapter 6, and we should have seen the people who came in. Civil society, maybe the Chief Justice there, a couple of people like Boniface Mwangi and so on. But there was nobody from the street. Yeah.
Did they know?
That's
Let's pick this call from Ali in Mombasa, and then we can hear from you. Good morning, Ali.
Good morning, everybody over there.
Good morning.
I hope you're having a mad morning today. And Paul, you are one of my icons.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The only thing I'm trying to differ a little bit with you and the previous caller, that is Alan, is to talk about the chapter 6. If they are going to keep it open in the public, are they not going to get a court injunction saying that my privacy is being poked on? Unless we see something in that chapter 6 stops by saying this is a public officer, he has no privacy in his business and is in his personal earning. He is doing work for the people where his personal earning is being paid by the citizen of Kenya through the taxation system. I think that is the question that I'm raising. Another issue is just a concern, Paul.
Yes.
When are you going to write no one can stop the reggae? And you know reggae is, dedicated to people, I don't know, but that's my own opinion, dedicated to the people who smoke marijuana.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you.
Have a good day. So where do you come in?
Okay, I think Ali is an interesting one. It must be those kind of people that we should sit down and have a nice long conversation. Chapter 6 is it's not a complicated section of the current constitution. What we are driving is for it to be put into play, and we shall definitely see quite a number of things changing here and there. And about the reggae, that one remains to be seen. Yeah.
Whether it stops or not.
I guess we'll hear that today. You talk about something saying in terms of demanding, or integrity from leaders. I often think that it is that leaders know that they know that Kenyans will not come out and demand it. So that's why they continue to behave in the way in which they do. So I don't know, dealing with a chicken egg situation, do we come out and demand it, or do you say that the leaders must behave that way and then it becomes round? Because other countries whereby you have huge this active lobby that you're talking about without violence necessarily, but keep coming out and demanding, leaders then know that the people are going to demand this, that it is my responsibility to do 1, 2, and that I must act within the lines of integrity. So they know that they will not do 1, 2, 3 things because they know that there are people who are going to demand it on the other side. Exactly. Same thing happens on the other side. If you know that nobody's going to demand it of you, then you're going to do whatever it is that you want, knowing full well that people are actually not going to come out and make noise. It's the Vumilia, in my opinion, it's the Vumilia, way of life. That's
exactly where we have this problem because who should go out there and tell the people as part of whether you want to call it civic education or whatever, but just to announce the knowledge of these people. It will be these same leaders who are hostile to these sections of this set of laws. In fact, they are wishing it away, and they also don't want the population to know so much about it.
Yes.
I think two sections of the society are also failing, because expecting the leaders to do this, we need to realize that they will not. It works to their advantage when there is illiteracy. But civil society and the media have a critical role to play.
Exactly so.
Because civil society then would be the one that's engaging, and civil society comes from communities, CBOs, going all the way up, you're interacting with the people. And then there's media. If media, all we're doing is regurgitating what the political leadership is saying and not connecting the dots and saying, all right, so this is what 3 trillion shillings budget has done so far in this one financial year. or the previous financial year of 2 trillion shillings, this is where the money went. The increase in the number of schools, of hospitals, the increase in productivity in agriculture to achieve food security. If we don't connect those dots, it's always just going to be the same.
Yes. And worse still, because of the growing culture of mistrust, even when the government does something that is commendable, no one will see it.
Yeah.
Because the lenses are darkened. They will not see it. And the complaint mode will be the norm. So even when you know something, it's actually even before your very eyes. Now, when you have that rift between the government or a government and its people, it isn't a pleasant position to be in. There's something that has happened in Latin America. There's a group of people who trace their ancestry either to Spanish aristocracy or just to Spain. They refer to as the Blancos as opposed to the natives of Latin America. Something interesting has happened in Peru. For the first time, a native has been able to actually become president.
Yeah.
Now, part of the reason why that has been possible is because all these groups that were not Blancos could never get together. They could never agree. So they would just keep dividing their votes, and these people became the ruling class. Remember, there was a gentleman called Fujimori. Fujimori is of Japanese
ancestry.
Yes, exactly. Now, his daughter...
But he ran away and went to Japan.
Precisely. But he had issues. It was important for him to go back to Japan. But what am I saying? I am saying that there's something to understand about that sort of leadership. Some parts of Latin America, their aristocracy that ruled them were people who had been in the army. The current leader of Brazil has a history of being in the military. All I'm saying is, when people actually get to understand what Eric has been preaching here, then they realize that, this issue of following the leaders is all good and well, but it's about time we thought of the commonality of our issues and let that supersede everything else that we hear. Any other noise that you hear, if it isn't there, but so long as that isn't there, this status quo is going to be very difficult to change.
Indeed. Paul, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been a lovely one.
And, I was obliged. Many thanks for having me.
Becky says, the show today, Yani, I'm here mentally and intellectually stimulated. I love it. She listens to us every day. She's never said this, so this must be you.
It is your presence that is saying this.
You're kidding me.
Yes. No.
Asante sana for joining us.
Many thanks.
City, today's proverb.
When a soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. You do not blame the ones who committed the sin, but the ones who created the darkness.
Where is this? Okay, so you said this is the book Les Miserables.
Thank you very much.
By Voltaire.
Yes, and I'm saying, just think of the situation in Kenya and the darkness that we've been referring to, with the reference to our poverty, with the reference to voter or political illiteracy. Now you tell me, where does that fit in to the proverb?
Who created the darkness?
Yes, and should we actually blame the one who created the darkness? And if the person who was in darkness gets to the light, will they continue shining the light, or will they also create their own darkness?
What do they do with it?
Yes.
Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. up to 10 a.m. So the judgment by the Court of Appeal is going on the BBI. So by the end of the day today, we'll know whether reggae is still on pause, or they've pressed the play button, or whether it's actually stopped. On Monday, obviously, we'll be talking about this, the outcome of today's proceedings at the Court of Appeal. So join us then. You have a lot of music to enjoy this weekend. Now until 11, music. And then 11, you have Sugar and Spice. And then from 3 o'clock, you have Monique taking you home. From 7, you have the adults in the room. Tomorrow morning, you have 00 direct from what time?
10 to 2.
10 to 2. Have a lovely day, folks. It's 10 a.m.